Our story kicks off on the 8th floor of the tower, in the Plains of Extinction, where a bunch of warriors have gathered, and a massive army marches together through the snow, bracing for what's to come on their journey. Leading the pack is a blonde guy who seems to be the head honcho of this whole expedition, and he turns to his soldiers, starting his speech to pump everyone up for the battle. The Blue Zone Guild Master, Kazuki Kyojo, says they've teamed up to take down the 8th floor guardian, and he warns everyone not to get complacent, because if they mess this up now, reaching the 9th floor will be a pipe dream. Just then, in the middle of the crowd, someone they all know very well finally shows up. With a surprised look, the Blue Zone leader realizes who just arrived for the fight. It was the Blue Eyes Guild, led by their mysterious masked master, who makes quite the entrance. This guy is none other than Subaru Narukami, the master of the #1 guild, and, you guessed it, our main character, Kazuki, seems pretty happy to see him, and goes to greet him with a big ol' smile on his face. Our hero apologizes for being late, but Kazuki says he was actually the first one to get there. A soldier mentions that the Miram Alliance is coming too, but they probably just want to pick up the scraps. Hearing that, the masked man already puts his hand on his weapon, ready for whatever might go down, but then our protagonist hands something to Kazuki, leaving him totally confused by the situation. It was a glowing ring that our main character was giving to his blonde-haired friend. The item was the Archangel's Blessing, which restores fatigue, and Kazuki is floored by the gift he just received. The Blue Zone leader says the masked man would need it too, but he's determined to ensure the mission's success. Our hero then invites Kazuki to head back to Blue Earth after the battle is over, saying the blonde guy can give the ring back when they get home safe and sound. At this, Kazuki gets emotional and gives a slight, thankful smile to his friend. Our protagonist adds that he can keep the item if he doesn't feel like coming home with him, as suddenly, a huge tremor shakes the ground, and the two of them go on high alert for what's heading their way. The Blue Zone leader says the monster is here, and he didn't expect it to show up so soon. The earth quakes and the 8th floor guardian finally appears to terrorize all the warriors. Kazuki then yells for all his soldiers to get ready for the battle that's about to kick off. The creature reveals itself to be a sea dragon hydra with multiple heads and super sharp teeth. Our guy looks at the ugly thing and mutters something nasty, totally grossed out by its hideous looks. A dark energy starts to emanate from the masked man's hand as he feels a chill run down his spine. Lightning courses through our protagonist's body, and he declares that today will be the creature's last day. With a furious glare, the creature stares down the warriors, ready to start the party. The Hydra then opens its mouth and preps a powerful breath attack to wipe out the army. Kazuki desperately yells for everyone to take cover, but our hero stops him, saying it's not necessary. He then charges forward alone at high speed, straight into the creature's attack, without a shred of fear. With a swift and precise move, our guy gets ready to slice the Hydra's attack right down the middle. The masked man unsheathes his sword, and with a single swing, he's about to solve the whole problem. A wave of dark energy mixed with lightning easily cuts through the creature's attack, splitting it in two. The Hydra's attack is deflected and passes by the sides of the army, which is just stunned by the scene. Kazuki looks on, impressed by his friend's strength, and says he's always full of surprises. The guild members celebrate, and a redhead complains that he wanted to be the first one to hit the creature. A female companion asks what he gave to Kazuki, and the masked man stays all mysterious about the item. With a determined look, our protagonist asks his team if they're ready for the fight, and declares they're going to take down that dragon and clear this hellish floor once and for all. The Blue Eyes Guild faces the multi-headed Hydra and prepares for the final showdown. Meanwhile, Kazuki watches from a distance and comments on how their team seems so united and strong. Far away, the Miram Alliance gets ready, and one of its leaders says he's positioned the soldiers as planned. Kazuki hears the report and asks if they should also start their attack on the creature. A hooded man agrees, and another member wishes them luck in the upcoming battle. A guy named Tushia watches everything from afar with a very serious look on his face. Meanwhile, the Blue Eyes Guild is already getting ready to kick off the fight against the mighty Hydra. Then, they all charge forward together and start wailing on the creature with everything they've got. The Hydra roars in fury and faces the warriors, ready to return the favor for the attacks it took. A girl leaps into attack, and her partner complains that she went in without telling anyone. With a wild look, the masked woman readies her dagger to pierce the creature's thick hide, and she strikes with speed, saying this fight will be a piece of cake for all of them. Another member uses ice magic and complains about how stressful this whole situation is. With a wicked smile, Toshia challenges a teammate to see who can deal more damage to the monster, and uses his dagger to unleash a powerful attack with a seriously sinister red aura. The attack lands a direct hit, and his blonde friend accepts the challenge while getting ready to attack too, saying the loser buys dinner and launching a strike with his blue energy blades. With that, the hooded blonde guy attacks the Hydra with his blue blades, slicing the creature with all his might. The impact sends a female companion flying, and another guy apologizes to the healer, Chino. The girl tells them not to worry and to keep attacking while she preps a spell. With that, Chino creates a large pink shield and tells them to leave the defense to her without any fear. One of her teammates calls her name, worried about the tense battle situation, but suddenly Kazuki appears behind her with a wicked smile and asks if she can block this. The healer is in shock, unable to react as she realizes what's about to happen. The traitor then stabs the young woman in the back, saying their problem is being way too cocky. Seeing the betrayal, our hero goes ballistic and gets ready to go all out against the blonde guy. The poor girl then collapses to the ground, badly wounded, with no clue why the surprise attack happened. The traitor just stands there, looking at the girl's body on the ground, with a satisfied smirk on his face. Our protagonist's eye glows with an intense blue light, showing all his rage. Kazuki, his face dirty, warns him that this isn't the time to look away from the main fight. Our guy can't believe what he's seeing and asks why he would pull such a senseless betrayal. A mysterious message announces that you have been chosen by the tower for a special mission, with the order to climb the tower and prepare for the beginning that was about to arrive. This was the first message from the tower that appeared to all the players at the same time, and nobody knew if it was a test or a blessing, as the truth was a huge mystery to everyone. So, they just follow the irresistible command and try to reach the top that no one has ever reached. Warriors from various worlds, like Earth and Miram, join together, each with their own mission. Years later, we see the bloody aftermath of battle against the 8th floor Hydra. On the ground lie the bodies of our hero's companions, who didn't make it through the fight. Tears stream down his face as he mourns the loss of all his friends. Our protagonist, all banged up, says he told everyone to run, but nobody listened to him. He looks at his fallen friends and says he doesn't remember giving them permission to check out. With great sadness, our guy calls his companions idiots for having sacrificed themselves. A screen pops up showing that he's been poisoned and his fatigue is extremely high. The system warns that he'll be done for if his fatigue hits 100, and he wonders what people will say. Filled with rage, our hero turns to the one responsible and asks why the heck he did that. The traitor reveals that this was the only way to defeat him, as his friends would just get in the way. Meanwhile, the bodies of the Blue Eyes Guild members lie still in the snow. Kazuki yells that everything our hero gave him was a torment, and that's why he chose the world. Our protagonist remains silent, processing the betrayal of his former friend. The blonde guy says it's a shame, but the end is near for our guy. All wounded on the ground, with a smile, he shows off the ring and says he won't have to return it, since everyone is going to be unalived. The traitor tosses the item away and tells the masked man not to be sad, because he'll be a hero. Our hero gives a small smile and says that, even at the end, Kazuki only hears what he wants to hear. Our protagonist's hand trembles from weakness, but he still hasn't given up the fight. With that, the blonde guy turns his back and leaves, letting the masked man meet his end alone. Our guy knows his life can't be saved and that his time is almost up, but that doesn't mean he's just going to give up and accept his fate. Seeing this, the traitor is surprised by his old friend's attitude. Our protagonist then pulls a legendary dagger called Aeolus from his inventory. The blonde guy is shocked to see that the item still has charges, and our hero calls him a piece of trash. With the dagger in hand, our hero smiles and says he can use the item 4 more times. And, looking back, he sees that only 4 survivors from his guild are left. Our protagonist uses the dagger's power to create a gust of wind and save his companions. With that, the strong wind blows all the survivors far away from the battlefield. Seeing this, the traitor furiously yells for his men to go after the escapees immediately. The soldiers of the Miram Alliance then start running to capture the members of Blue Eyes, but our hero's dagger glows with an intense purple light as he prepares for the worst. With a sinister smile, our protagonist says he won't let anyone get past him. Our guy then stands up and says everyone there will stay and fight him to the very end. The system warns that his fatigue has increased to 95 and his power has a time limit. Not caring one bit, he unleashes his ability and the Thunder Lord descends with full force. Kazuki watches the scene with a smile and calls our hero a stubborn son of a gun. To endure the pain, our guy stabs himself and his fatigue increases to 96. Our protagonist then asks what reward the traitor promised all of them, but warns that he hopes they're all ready to pay with their own lives. Our hero declares that, from this point on, no one leaves without his permission. Seeing the guy's determination, one of the soldiers starts to panic about the current situation. So, with no other choice, the warriors decide it's all or nothing and charge forward together. An enemy tries to hit our guy with his spear, but he manages to block the blow. Our protagonist thinks that normally he wouldn't lose to these chumps, but this is a different story. With his body at its limit, he knows he needs to be careful with every move he makes in the fight, and he fears that, if the traitor Kazuki decides to attack, things will go south for him real fast. His fatigue increases to 97, and he thinks that his friends are far enough away by now now. Our guy knows he can't drag this fight out, and an enemy takes the opportunity to attack him. Even weakened, he manages to block the blow but ends up getting pushed back. The impact sends his fatigue up to 98 and blood starts to trickle from his mouth. Even staggering from exhaustion, our hero doesn't give up and continues to face the soldiers. In a moment of carelessness, one of the warriors manages to land a spear hit on our protagonist. The weapon falls to the ground covered in blood, but our guy hasn't been completely defeated yet. The soldier celebrates, thinking he's defeated Subaru Narukami, but he's dead wrong. With a furious look, our hero grabs the soldier and asks who he said he took out. Then, a blast of black lightning hits all the surrounding soldiers with full force. The warriors scream in pain as they're electrocuted by our guy's power. One by one, the soldiers fall to the ground, completely defeated by the surprise attack. Our protagonist then removes the dagger he used to keep himself awake and focused. With the battlefield cleared, our hero finally collapses to his knees, exhausted from the fight. The remaining soldiers are in shock and wonder if they finally defeated the monster. From a distance, the traitor watches the scene and calls his former friend a true monster. The blonde guy thinks that our hero's era ended in a pretty simple and pathetic way. Our protagonist's fatigue climbs to 99, and the system warns that he's about to be done for, but our guy says that Kazuki should know better than anyone what he's really like. With great difficulty, our protagonist struggles to get to his feet and continue the fight. With an enemy's spear in hand, he yells with all his might that victory is his and throws the spear with incredible speed towards his main target. The traitor smirks and uses the Archangel's blessing to save himself from the fatal attack, but he's shocked because the ring that was supposed to save him didn't work as he expected. The spear hits him dead on, and he can't believe it, but our hero says that he was the one who won. Our guy's consciousness drifts in the darkness as he reflects on his end. Suddenly, a horrible smell hits him, and he realizes he can still smell things. Then, the loud clang of a trash can lid snaps his attention back to the real world. Our protagonist wakes up inside a trash can in a dirty, stinky alley, and looking around, he wonders if this horrible place is the hell everyone's so scared of. A screen pops up and shows that his name is now Subaru Hozoi, with pretty weak stats. Just then, a sharp headache hits him, and he starts receiving new information. It was the memories of the body's owner, who was bullied for being weak and useless. A tear rolls down his eye as he gets even more confused by the situation. He discovers that Subaru Narukami passed away 20 years ago, and realizes he's in another body. In desperation, our protagonist wonders if this is all just some crazy dream. He tries to get out of the trash can but loses his balance, and falls flat on the ground. Lying on the ground, our hero looks at a nearby tablet, still not understanding a thing. Our guy finds a tablet on the ground and recognizes it as a player kit, and, without wasting any time, uses the device to look up his old guild, the Blue Eyes. He discovers that the guild became the Blue Zone, and that the traitor became the new master. Seeing the traitor's picture, our hero is shocked and wonders how he didn't meet his end. Just then, he remembers the past and how Kazuki Ojo wasn't his enemy at the beginning. In a memory, the blonde guy calls him over to talk, and says he's thinking of leaving the guild. Our guy is surprised, and his friend asks him to break the news to the rest of the team. Kazuki says he'll understand why eventually, but our hero could only think about their friendship. The blonde guy tells him not to worry, because he'd be his shadow, and years later he created his own guild, the Blue Zone, and he wonders why the traitor hasn't made any progress in 20 years. A tear rolls down his face, as he realizes a lot has happened while he's been gone. The tablet shows a place called the Subaru Narukami Memorial Hall, leaving him completely stunned. Our protagonist looks up and realizes he's standing right in front of his own memorial, with a bead of sweat on his face. He admits the building is way more impressive than he imagined. Inside, a huge screen displays his image from the past to a crowd of admirers. Our hero wonders what the point is of everyone remembering him. After all this time, looking at his image on the screen, he questions who did this, and for what purpose, because he just can't understand the reason for this whole tribute to him. With a hand on his head, he hears a recording saying he was an example to everyone. The voice continues, calling him the hero of the Blue Eyes, and the one closest to the top of the tower. It says that, together with his companions, they decided to remember him for all eternity. Our protagonist is in shock and breaks out in a cold sweat from what he's hearing. Just then, the recording reveals that they established this memorial hall in his honor. Filled with rage, our guy grinds his teeth, already guessing who was responsible. Kazuki's image appears, and our hero screams the traitor's name with all his hatred. The blonde guy says that the Blue Zone is the only guild that inherits the noble spirit of his friend, and furious, our guy tells him to shut up because he wasn't satisfied with just taking his life. The trader claims they will never return, but our hero promises that he'll just see about that. Kazuki finishes his fake speech, saying they will never forget that memory. With a wicked smile, our hero swears he's going to rewrite this whole story from scratch. With a determined look, our hero vows he won't let the trader get away with it again, and promises himself that he won't waste this second chance he's been given. Suddenly, he bumps into a kid who falls to the ground, muttering in pain. Our protagonist holds out a hand and asks the kid if he's okay after the fall. The kid looks up at our hero's face and is completely shocked by what he sees. Suddenly, he notices the kid is wearing a mask he knows all too well. Just then, two people approach and worriedly ask if the boy named Minato is hurt. Our guy turns pale when he sees they're also wearing the masks of his old guild, and he's totally confused, unable to understand what's happening in this place. Our protagonist then runs a hand over his face, trying to process the bizarre situation. With sweat dripping down, he wonders what the heck is going on around him. Looking around, he realizes that everyone in the hall is wearing the same masks. He then remembers the trader's words, saying it was a shame it all had to end like that, and that he shouldn't be sad, because he would be remembered as a great hero. With that, our hero finally starts to understand what the trader meant by all of it, and whispers the trader's name with pure hatred in his eyes. He then runs through the crowd of masked people, who completely ignore him. In front of him is an altar with his picture, and various flowers and candles in his honor. Our protagonist wonders if this is all just a sham to steal his guild's glory. With a shocked expression, he can't believe the nerve of his old friend. Suddenly, a blue light starts to shine intensely from among the flowers on the altar. Our guy notices the strange glow and focuses his gaze in the direction of the mysterious light. Without a second thought, he starts pushing people aside to get closer to the altar. The people get annoyed and yell at him to be careful and wait his turn in line. With all the pushing and shoving, he ends up falling to his knees right in front of the memorial, and his hand then touches the flowers that were glowing with the strange bluish energy. He picks up one of the flowers and recognizes the energy of an old teammate. Far away, on top of a building, someone is peacefully watching the city from above. The hooded man comments that they managed to get through another year without any incidents. A companion says they barely avoided running into the Blue Zone crew. The partner asks if it's really necessary to do this ceremony every year, but Shiger says you never know what might happen, and it's better to be safe than sorry. With a smile, he says that maybe Subaru will notice the flowers he left as a gift. The partner doubts that Subaru is alive, but Shiger says he hasn't seen it with his own eyes yet. The hooded man thinks it's more likely that Kazuki will find them before they find Subaru, and gets annoyed, saying that if the leader were alive, they wouldn't have been sitting around for 20 years. The scene then shifts to a beautiful sunset, with several birds flying across the sky. Back to our hero, he's out of breath, but with a look full of hope. He wonders if his old companion is really alive after all this time. In a secluded spot, our guy continues to process the possibility of her being alive. Looking at the flower in his hand, he whispers Shiger's name with conviction. Later, he's in Subaru Hosoi's room and notices how simple the place is. On the device, he searches for his old guild but finds no results, even though he's absolutely certain that Shiger survived that massacre. Our protagonist gets frustrated thinking that she's been in hiding for 20 years. Our hero concludes that Kazuki is the root of it all, as he wouldn't let the truth get out. He wonders if Shiger really survived alone, and if the other three escaped as well, but he knows that as long as the traitor is alive, trying to make any contact is a suicide mission. Besides, our protagonist is powerless, and pushing his luck would only put him in danger. Looking at the flower and the mask, he knows he needs to do one important thing first. With a determined look, our guy decides he needs to get his old power back. Following Hosoi's memories, he grabs a training sword that was in the room. 2 days later, the tutorial to become a player finally begins for him. Our hero thinks that if he can survive this trial, everything will be fine in the end, and believes that as long as they're alive, they can meet again anytime. The scene takes us to a large coliseum, which is the tutorial's examination hall. Inside, several bodies are scattered on the floor, showing how tough the test is. A bald, bearded man named Sugar watches everything with a serious expression. Nearby, a young warrior is panting after defeating several green creatures. The examiner, Sugar, looks at the young man and says he passed the test by the skin of his teeth. Sugar asks if the guy wants to try the next step, and he's pretty confused by the offer. A screen pops up explaining that with each step, a new goblin appears and the rewards increase. The warrior immediately refuses, and Huger fails him, saying his head hurts just hearing that, but the guy insists that the important thing is that he managed to pass the test one way or another. The examiner is disappointed, as he'll have to let a weakling like that guy pass, and complains that, aside from Isaac, who cleared stage 20, no one else there looks promising. With a look of contempt, Shooter complains that the quality of this year's recruits is terrible. Suddenly, he notices something on his clipboard and looks more closely at the arena. it was our protagonist entering the battlefield with his sword in hand. Sugar reads the name Subaru Hosoi and comments that it's a heavy name to carry, and then warns that our hero can only use that name if he manages to pass the test. Our guy agrees, and a screen pops up in front of him to start the challenge. The system then generates 2 goblins, and the mission is simply to defeat the 2 creatures. The examiner gets ready to start the tutorial, but is interrupted by a fast-moving blur. Before he could even finish his sentence, our hero had already taken down both monsters. Sugar is confused and wonders what just flew by him. The examiner didn't even blink, and pieces of the monsters were already flying across the arena. Our hero smiles, because testing the limits of this new body for 2 days was the right call, and then discovers that the body he woke up in is actually quite exceptional. The screen asks if he wants to go to the next step, and he accepts without a second thought. Seeing the guy's speed, the examiner's jaw drops, unable to believe the scene. In the blink of an eye, another goblin head rolls and stops right at the examiner's feet. With the arena littered with bodies, Shooter wonders what the heck is going on here. The examiner watches our guy fight and realizes he's not just attacking wildly, and with a keen eye, he notices that our hero isn't just swinging his sword around aimlessly. Our protagonist is reading the enemy's movements 2 or 3 steps ahead. His hand grips the sword firmly as he continues the massacre without stopping. Huger thinks that this isn't just being good with a sword, because not even he can do that. With a confident smile, our protagonist shows that he's completely in control. The examiner then suspects that the guy might be the reincarnation of Subaru Narukami himself. With a precise strike, our hero finishes off another creature with his sharp sword, and then stops, facing the last standing goblin, before finishing it off too. A screen pops up, warning that he's cleared step 49 and asks about the boss. Even panting and sweating, our guy says that since he's made it this far, he might as well keep going. Our protagonist is exhausted, but he knows he needs to push on to finish the tutorial. Suddenly, a blue energy starts to crack the entire arena floor with full force. From the ground, a giant, shadowy hand emerges for our hero's final challenge. The examiner panics and yells that he's no Narukami to face that thing. Huger warns him to stop if he wants to stay alive, but it's too late for warnings. The ground trembles and the final boss reveals itself. The Goblin King, furious about the sacrifices. Seeing the monster, Huger desperately yells for our hero to give up, because fighting is crazy. The examiner insists that it's suicide and the power difference between them is just too big. Our guy knows that with his current stats, he won't be able to deal any decent damage. But even so, he grips his sword, because he's not backing down from the upcoming battle. Suddenly, our protagonist surprises everyone by dropping his weapon and saying he refuses. With this move, Huger panics and wonders if the guy has finally lost his mind. Then, the Goblin King charges full speed at our hero, who is now unarmed. At that moment, an object hits the monster's shoulder. Catching it by surprise mid-attack, the creature looks down at its leg and sees a thin needle stuck there, not understanding a thing. A drop of sweat trickles down the Goblin King, who is completely confused by what just happened. He then looks at our protagonist, who is crouched on the ground picking something up. With a smile, our guy shows off some needles and asks if the creature is surprised. Our hero then proposes a little bet to the final boss of this tutorial, challenging the monster to see who can take the other down first in this fight. Our protagonist smirks and finishes the challenge, saying he's about to turn the monster into a pincushion, with his eyes glowing. He then throws the needles with impressive speed towards the creature. The Goblin King roars in fury and demands an answer to the challenge he received from the guy. The creature then charges with its mouth wide open, ready to devour our hero in one go. With that, the monster raises its axe and brings it down for a powerful blow to crush the boy. With a swift move, the axe comes down with full force towards our protagonist, but our hero is faster and manages to dodge the attack, diving to the side with agility. Crouched on the ground, he watches the monster closely, waiting for the right moment to strike. At that moment, a memory from the past flashes in his mind, helping him in the battle. In a flashback, we see his former self practicing his throwing skills on a tree with a target. A woman named Rina scolds him, saying he can't throw like that, and with a smile, she says that anything can be used as a throwing weapon. The woman then shows the young man the correct way to hold the object for the attack, explaining that any item becomes a knife if you know its center of gravity. The object then hits the target dead center, showing the precision of his intense training. Back in the present, the needles hit the Goblin King's face, who bleeds in pain. With the impact, the creature screams in agony and starts to fall backward, losing its strength. Our guy explains that the power comes from the rotation, and the precision from the lack of hesitation. With a serious look, he remembers that it was his old companion Rina who taught him everything. Huger realizes that the poison needles didn't disappear, and he used that to his advantage. The examiner is shocked, as he used both a sword and hidden weapons to win the fight. With a bead of sweat on his face, Huger admits that the guy in front of him is a true genius. The Goblin King, riddled with holes, roars in pain, but he's already very weak from the poison. With that, the monster finally can't take it anymore and collapses to the ground, completely defeated. Our guy then approaches and picks up his sword to deliver the final blow, saying he has nothing against the creature, but he needs to finish the tutorial once and for all. With a decisive strike, our hero finishes off the creature and ends the battle for good. The system announces that he has defeated the Goblin King and completed step 50 of the tutorial. Exhausted, our protagonist complains that a monster like that shouldn't be in a tutorial. With the victory, several screens pop up and the system rewards him with points and a level up. Our hero wonders what he can buy with his 2,425 points. With that, he opens the shop and sees several cheap items, but knows he'll have a lot of points left over. But, scrolling down the screen, he finds something that leaves him completely shocked by the situation. It was a nameless demonic sword, created by Kindred, and our guy can't believe what he's seeing. He thinks this sword is tempting, but his lightning ability already drains a lot of his life. Just then, he finds the holy sword Miranda, which seems like a much safer option for him. Our protagonist is torn between choosing destructive power or the safety of the other weapon. With a scale in mind, he knows he needs to choose carefully how to spend his points. Suddenly, he notices something strange on the shop screen that catches his attention. He then discovers that he can still scroll the page down and see more items from the shop, and with that, he finds the ability Greed's Wedge, which suppresses item side effects. Our hero realizes that with this, he can suppress the negative effects of the sword and the lightning. Without a second thought, he buys the ability and the demonic sword, taking the gamble. Huger then notices the guy's choice, and he comments that he went with demonic sword. Huger praises the choice and says the items are a good match, but he doesn't understand the decision. The examiner asks why he chose such a risky and unknown ability. At this, our hero gets annoyed and asks if he really wants a detailed explanation. Our guy gets irritated and thinks about how hard it is to use formal speech with the supervisor. Seeing his reaction, Huger says he'll let it slide, since he must be tired from the exam. Our protagonist then remembers that the brat from the past became a supervisor. In a memory, a young, embarrassed Huger was asking him for an autograph, but in his past life, our hero said he didn't have an autograph to give the fan. The kid then insisted and asked him to just write his name in his notebook. Back in the present, Huger complains about his lack of manners, and our guy scoffs at him. Our protagonist says he's not going to answer and asks for secrecy about the test results. At this, the examiner gets furious and says he'll teach the kid some manners himself. He then invites him to the Chivalry Guild, but our hero turns down the offer on the spot. A screen pops up asking if he wants to go to the second floor, and he accepts without thinking. With that, our hero disappears, and Huger desperately yells for him to wait a minute, alone in the place. Huger is disappointed with the guy's attitude and sighs in frustration. Meanwhile, our protagonist finally arrives on the second floor of the Great Tower, and finds himself in a bustling place called the Land of Beginnings. And looking around, our guy realizes he's back in that place after a long time. He knows this is his second chance, and he can't waste this unique opportunity, since he's lived through all this once. Our protagonist knows he needs to do everything better. He'll do it for his companions, who might be waiting for him, and for his revenge. With his goal in mind, our hero heads to a private training room to test his new abilities. Arriving there, an attendant asks which floor he came from, and our guy says he just came up. The old man then recommends room number 1, as it only has a simple scarecrow inside, but our protagonist ignores the advice and asks to use room number 5, leaving the man confused. The attendant insists it'll be a waste of money, but our hero doesn't care and asks for 30 minutes. Unfazed, our guy spends 50 credits and rushes to the training room he chose. The training rooms get harder as the number increases, which is why he was underestimated. With his hand on the door, he then prepares to enter and begin his special training. Inside a place that looks like ancient ruins, our protagonist says it's time to begin. He then grips his new demonic sword tightly, ready to test its true power. The system announces that the nameless magic sword recognizes its user, and a red aura appears. All his abilities are temporarily boosted, but it drains his life and mana, causing him pain. Greed's Wedge then resists the weapon's negative effect, and a bit of his life is restored, but the ability at level 1 is too weak and can't fully resist the sword's power. With that, the weapon absorbs our hero's life, and his abilities increase according to the life lost. With his face stained with blood, our hero wonders if this is really his limit, but he says this was already within his expectations, and spends 10,000 credits to level up his ability. With that, Greed's Wedge levels up to 2 and better suppresses the sword's side effects. The ability now partially resists the weapon's power, and he stabs the sword into the ground with force. Even so, the nameless magic sword continues to drain our protagonist's life without stopping. His abilities increase even more, and, with a focused look, he finally manages to control the power. Our guy then gets into position to test all of his new power at once. With a shout, he says it's time to test his strength and unleashes a powerful strike in the room. Meanwhile, outside, the reception attendant is taking a nice nap at his desk. Suddenly, he wakes up a bit drowsy and senses a strange presence approaching him. The old man rubs his eyes and wonders if he's still dreaming or having some kind of hallucination. Our hero then leaves the training room, leaving a trail of blood on the hallway floor. The attendant is shocked, as not even 10 minutes have passed since the young man entered room 5. Worried, he goes to the door and knocks, asking if the dreamer kid is still in there. The old man then cracks the door open to peek at what happened inside the training room, and, with a shout of surprise, the attendant is completely shocked by what he's seeing. Looking inside, he sees the room completely destroyed and wonders what the heck happened in there. Elsewhere, our hero wakes up in his room with the sunlight hitting his face. He then stretches and wonders how long he slept, as his body still feels stiff. Our protagonist thinks that if it were a normal cursed sword, he wouldn't have gotten off so easy. Sitting in a coffee shop, he notices the physical burden has lessened, and he managed to dry out the weapon's power. With his current stats, our guy shouldn't even be able to lift the sword, let alone use it. This means the compatibility between Greed's wedge and the sword is just perfect. With a smile, he thinks that a combination with his lightning ability should also work well. But the next problem is the skill levels. As he only has 50 credits to spend, our hero complains that now he's struggling with credit management and that he's fallen pretty low. Suddenly, a cheerful blonde guy arrives, drawing everyone's attention. A streamer then receives a 1,000 credit donation from a fan named Alexander and is overjoyed. In his excitement, he ends up spilling his coffee on himself, but thanks them for the donation anyway. Seeing this, our protagonist watches from a distance and wonders if that guy is nuts. With a keen eye, our hero observes the scene and starts to understand the situation. On his tablet, he sees an article about earning points and discovers the era of live streaming. He then understands what the blonde guy was doing, but suddenly someone calls him by the name Subaru. It was a well-dressed, silver-haired guy who greets him with a smile on his face. The man approaches and says it's crazy to find him here, asking if he lives nearby. Our protagonist feels a shiver and realizes his body is instinctively reacting to the newcomer. In a mocking tone, the guy complains that he's ignoring him, and it feels like he's talking to himself. Our guy then remembers it's not discomfort, and that he had just arrived on this floor. With that, the man leans on the table and says it's surprising to see him in this place. With a wicked smile, he says he never thought a weakling like him would pass the tutorial. Hearing this, our hero gets annoyed and finally remembers that jerk's face. In a memory from the past, the body's former owner asks why he was doing that. The guy named Isaac then glares at him with contempt and tells him not to try and calm him down with that look. Angrily, Isaac curses him out, saying his name annoys him and that he can't follow simple orders. The poor kid then yells that the credits he gave him weren't enough for the mission. Furious, Isaac tells the kid to shut up and punches him in the face with all his might. With a cruel smile, he shows a box and says that from that day on, it will be his new home, and threatens him, saying that if he leaves the box on his own, he knows what will happen. Back in the present, our hero finally understands why he was inside that box before. With that, Isaac brags, saying he cleared up to step 20 and broke Supervisor Huter's record. He continues to boast, saying he even learned a B rank skill as a reward in the tutorial. Our protagonist then gets up to leave and tells Isaac not to rush his conversation, but the guy tells him to buy him a coffee on his way back, saying any cheap one will do. Isaac is confused by his attitude and complains that our hero is as disobedient as ever. Angrily, he asks what's wrong with our guy and if his soul has been swapped with someone else's. Our protagonist then says he has no credits and impatiently tells Isaac to buy his own coffee. With a serious look and a firm voice, the silver-haired guy tells our hero to sit down. Our hero thinks he doesn't have time for the kid's revenge, but if he gets in his way, it'll be a different story. With a determined look, he makes it clear that he won't let anyone interfere with his future plans. Seeing our guy's attitude, Isaac gets furious and grabs his arm tightly to stop him. With eyes red with fury, Isaac threatens our hero and asks what happens to runaway trash, but our guy glares back at him and tells him to let go if he knows what's good for him. With a furious look, Isaac glares at him and asks what happens to runaway trash like him, but our guy stares back and tells him to let go if he knows what's good for him. Isaac's eyes gleam with anger as he tightens his grip on our protagonist's arm. Our hero thinks he can't cause a scene here, as it would only make things worse for him. Seeing his calmness, the bully starts laughing out loud, finding the whole situation quite amusing. He then tells him not to be scared, as he was just messing with him like old times. Isaac mocks him, saying he must have barely passed the tutorial with his weak skills. Our protagonist then takes a step forward, getting closer to his old bully. Iza calls him trash and asks if he wants to fight, threatening to make him disappear. He then lets go of our guy's arm and calls him a friend with a fake smile on his face. Our hero glares at him with contempt and wonders what this friend talk is all about. A screen then explains that there are two main ways for players to grow. The first way to get stronger is through the trials offered by the Great Tower. By passing trials and earning rewards, players naturally get stronger. The second way to evolve and gain more power is simply through hunting. By hunting monsters or clearing dungeons, growth is much faster than in trials. However, since the hunting grounds are in the real world, if you get taken out there, it's game over for real. The scene then takes us to a dangerous dungeon called the Whispering Orc's Nest. That's why players avoid hunting, but our hero thinks differently from most of them. Sitting next to a defeated orc, he knows that the safer you play, the slower the progress, and on the other hand, the more dangerous the challenge, the faster his growth in the tower will be. After a short break, our protagonist picks up his tablet to check some information. Browsing the device, he ends up finding something that really catches his attention. It was a streamer using his old name, Narukami Subaru, with 80,000 viewers on the stream. The fate then announces to everyone that he will challenge the trial of the third floor of the tower. Our hero gets annoyed and wonders how many people are using his name and his mask out there. Suddenly, a 20,000 credit mission pops up, and the streamer thanks the donor excitedly. Our protagonist is shocked, as he never imagined a 20,000 credit mission just like that. With that, several other donations appear, and the fake thanks everyone for all the support he's receiving. While the streamer makes easy money, our guy risks his life to get stronger. With only 50 credits, our hero complains that the fake is making a fortune. He watches the fake on the device and seems to have an idea brewing in his mind. With a sigh, our protagonist stands up and prepares for the next battle. With a smile, he draws his demonic sword and says he'll do one more job. Suddenly, the ground shakes, and a giant orc foot stumps down with full force in front of him. A horde of furious orcs then appears, ready for a massacre in the dungeon. The system then announces that the dungeon boss, the orc general, has finally appeared. Our guy faces the monsters and says he has something better than poison needles. He activates his sword, which drains his HP, but Greed's wedge resists the effect. Angrily, our hero says he doesn't have time to waste on trash like them, and with a single strike, he cuts down several orcs at once with his demonic sword. The orc general is shocked to see our protagonist coming from above for the final attack. With a focused look, our guy delivers the final blow to end the fight for good. After clearing the dungeon, he holds his mask and says he'll have to use it again. Back in his room, he understands how to make money and decides that if he's gonna do it, he'll do it right. With the mask in hand, he says he's going all in on what he's really good at. Our hero then puts on his old mask and prepares for what's to come. With his sword on his back, he walks out confidently, cause he knows he's the real deal. After all, just then, a notification announces that Narukami Subaru has started a live stream. The scene then takes us to an empty office at Souten Entertainment. Inside, a woman in traditional clothing is watching something on her device. With a look of disgust, she gets very annoyed with what she's seeing on the screen. Suddenly, she stands up and kicks a coworker, who gets startled. She then calls the streamer trash and says that not even 5 people can get past that point. Her coworker asks what happened, and she replies that the streamer's name is Subikichi. The man asks if it's another fake, and she says it could be a hybrid of the two. He complains that everyone cosplays as Subaru, and she tells him not to say such creepy things. The guy says that even the players find it boring and calls her Hatsuka. At this, Hatsuka asks him why he gave up on the tower to be there. With a sad look, the blue-haired man replies that it's because it's too boring. The blue-haired guy says she gave up too, and would be scouting for new talent if she were free. With a smile, he recalls that his goal was to meet Subaru, which is why he lost his motivation. The guy then yells that there's an amazing kid here, and the woman asks if he found another weirdo. She then shows a new Narukami Subaru cosplayer, and the guy finds the situation absurd. The man complains that she's watching a stream with 0 viewers, but she agrees with him. The woman says that whenever she sees someone with that mask, she can't help but get her hopes up. With that, she sends 1,000 credits, and the guy gets on his knees, begging his colleague for forgiveness. The scene returns to our hero starting the second floor trial to clear the dungeon. Even so, our guy feels a lot of pressure from being watched by someone on the stream. A viewer named Love Muddy asks what floor he's on, and if it's his first time. Our protagonist then replies yes, and that this is his first major challenge. The viewer asks if it's okay to stream, since he might not know the way around. Suddenly, a bat-like monster appears and flies towards our hero. The creature tries to bite our guy's mask, task, but the attack fails miserably. With a swift move, our hero draws his sword and cuts the monster in half with a single strike. The system announces the bat's defeat, and with a confident look, our hero asks if there's a problem. The system then announces the start of the second floor trial in the beginner's dungeon that our hero will face. With 3 viewers on the stream, one praises his reflexes, and another advises him to wait for a group. Our protagonist thanks the viewer for the advice, but says that's not going to be possible. He then states that he prefers to face all challenges alone, and the viewers mock him, thinking he's a noob. Our guy thinks that just using the name Narukami Subaru already attracts viewers, as a monster awaits him. Suddenly, a bizarre fish-like creature charges at him, ready to attack. Unfazed, our protagonist grips his demonic sword and prepares to finish the creature off. With a swift strike, he easily cuts the monster in half and says he's going to test how far he can go. A screen announces he's defeated the monster, and the viewers are confused as they didn't even see what happened. Right after, a swarm of bat monsters appears out of nowhere and flies towards him for a mass attack, but our hero isn't intimidated and dives into the middle of the swarm, starting to slice through all the monsters with his sword. With his eyes glowing, he continues the massacre without stopping, showing complete control of the situation in the dungeon. The viewers are shocked and ask what happened. As the number of people on the stream climbs to 10, the system confirms the defeats, and he tells them to focus on the sounds to know where the monsters are coming from. Seeing the floor littered with monsters, the viewers change their minds and realize he's no newbie. Our hero challenges the viewers to guess what he's thinking as they comment on his talent, but he thinks it's still not enough and wants to rack up as many points as possible before leaving. A viewer asks if he's been going in a straight line the whole time, and others warn him of the danger. Ignoring the warnings, our guy continues to advance through the dungeon without a second of hesitation. With a focused look, he knows exactly what he's doing and where he's going in this dangerous place. Suddenly, he stops at the edge of a cliff and sees a horde of bizarre monsters waiting for him below. One of the monsters stares back at him with its giant red eye, ready for whatever comes next in the fight. The viewers see the scene and say he's screwed and that they'll see him on his next try. Just then, a 100 credit mission pops up for him to defeat them all, and the viewers think it's a trap. Our protagonist then thanks the donor for the 100 credits, leaving everyone confused by his calmness on the stream. Meanwhile, in the office, the blue-haired guy clenches his fist tightly, showing his frustration. He yells, wondering what he did wrong, as he was doing well and now failed the mission he received. Embarrassed, he apologizes to his colleague for being so loud and admits his big mistake. The woman remains focused on her device and seems not to have noticed her partner's outburst. The guy then asks what she's so focused on and realizes the place has gotten strangely quiet all of a sudden. The blue-haired guy panics and says he can pay her back what he owes without any problem, but the woman ignores him and, with her eyes fixed on the screen, she notices something that leaves her in shock. With that, she whispers the name Narukami Subaru, and her partner asks if she's still watching that stream. He then looks at her device's screen with a face of disbelief at what he's seeing. On the stream, our hero is in the middle of the massacre, and the viewers wonder how he's facing so many monsters. With a swift move, he cuts down 3 more creatures at once, showcasing his skill. Seeing the scene, the stream's viewers are in shock, and one asks for whoever called him a noob to step forward. Our protagonist then stops for a second and says communication is pretty tough with the monsters. A viewer reminds him to accept the mission credits, and our guy says he had forgotten about that. Without wasting time, he then grabs his tablet to complete the mission he received from the donor. The viewers find the delay strange and ask if he's having connection issues on the stream. With a hand on his head, our hero asks how to accept the credits, and the people on the stream start laughing. A viewer helps him out, and he manages to collect the reward, thanking everyone for the big help. With 20 viewers, he announces that the next one will be the last and moves forward with the sword on his back. The scene then shifts to a building at night, and someone screams in desperation while falling from a great height. Back in the office, the woman covers her mouth in embarrassment while her colleague despairs over the situation, but the guy calls her dramatic, as it's just the second floor, and she asks if he's ever seen anything like it. Angrily, she stands up and yells that of course she's being dramatic, and her partner apologizes for the comment. The woman then remembers an old interview and wonder if meeting that guy was an act of fate. She gets excited and says he could be the reincarnation of Narukami Subaru, just like in the book she's read. With a hand on her head, she says she's getting dizzy and asks her partner what would happen if she closed her eyes. The guy yells no and asks if she's thinking of hiring the streamer for their agency. The woman says it's a perfect idea, but her colleague warns her that he's just a new solo streamer. He insists that she knows knows nothing, and that the boss will chew them out for this risky bet. With a determined look, the woman tells him to wait and see what happens with the new talent. With that, she goes back to watching the stream on her device, focused on our protagonist's performance in the dungeon. Meanwhile, our hero finally reaches a large stone structure waiting for him at the end of the path. He then stops in front of a giant door and says, "This is the end of the dungeon he was looking for." The massive stone door reveals itself to be imposing, and our guide prepares for what's next on his journey. With his hand outstretched, he then approaches to touch the door and find out what's on the other side. On the other side, he finds a giant werewolf-like creature sitting on the floor. This is the wolf warrior Greg, and the viewers comment on how insane the pressure he gives off is. A screen then pops up, and the mission is simply to get the dungeon guardian's approval. Our protagonist understands that he's not a hunting monster, but a gatekeeper who judges the players. Suddenly, another mission appears, offering a reward if he can defeat the wolf warrior. Our hero is shocked to see that the reward for the mission is 3,000 credits all at once. Seeing this, the people on the stream warn that this monster isn't meant to be defeated by anyone. Ignoring the warnings, the wolf warrior begins to rise from the floor slowly for the battle. With a clenched fist, the creature prepares to face our guy who challenged him. The second floor guardian then stands up imposingly and glares at our hero with a deadly look. With a sinister smile, the creature calls him user and prepares for the upcoming combat. Just then, a memory from the past surfaces, and a female voice praises our hero for being amazing in battle. A white-haired companion comments that his breathing and his gaze don't waver during the fight. He then wonders if our protagonist calculates the enemy's moves and plans everything in advance. In the flashback, our hero from the past seems thoughtful as his friend observes him curiously. In the past, our hero says he doesn't think about anything special, and his friend finds him a boring guy. Back in the present, he remembers that the important thing is to notice things in the moment during a fight. Our guy notes the bats attack with their heads, and the more of them there are, the bigger the opening for an attack. A screen pops up, and the mission is simply to be recognized by the great wolf warrior. The creature looks at him suspiciously and wonders if our hero is really alone. The wolf then insists on the question, but the masked man says it's obvious he's alone. With that, the guardian says he's interesting and that he smells a great warrior. Our guy thinks that the wolf tribe can discern a very special scent. The monster explains that it's not the scent of the body, but the essence of a true warrior. With that, the wolf declares that the test is over, and our hero can proceed. Our protagonist is confused and says that's a shame, because his target is the guardian himself. The creature is surprised and asks if the target is really him and not the door right behind. With a serious look, our guy confirms and says someone sent him to take out the wolf. The guardian then smiles and says that's to be expected from someone with a warrior's soul. The scene then cuts to a potted plant in a bright, modern office. We see the woman, her partner, in front of the boss, who seems very busy with his work. With his hands on the keyboard, the agency's boss is typing very fast on his computer. This is John Tail, the department head, and he asks how many viewers the stream has. The blue-haired guy says the stream has about 20 people, but the woman corrects him on the spot. With a smile, she says it's already over 30, and her partner gets annoyed for being corrected. At this, the boss gets irritated with the situation and asks if the two of them are messing around at work. He then complains that he knows they make bets and that he asked for someone promising, not someone with 20 viewers. Hatsuka corrects him again, saying it's 30 people, and the boss gets even more irritated. The boss then suggests that the woman should become a streamer, as she has talent and would gain a lot of fans. Her partner sees the screen and freaks out, as the number has passed 40, while the boss continues to yell. Back to the fight, our hero faces the imposing wolf warrior. Preparing for combat, the creature then shows its sharp claws and charges full speed at our protagonist. Our guy grips his demonic sword and tells himself not to think about anything during the fight. The system warns that the weapon drains his life to boost his stats, and he feels the pain of the power. Greed's wedge resists the effect, and he says to fight as if it were the first time. With that, the wolf warrior charges at our hero with absurd speed. Without hesitation, the masked man then crosses his sword with the creature's claws in an impressive clash of power. With a blue glow on its paw, the guardian prepares another powerful blow to end the fight. The creature then unleashes a powerful strike, but our hero manages to bravely defend himself from the attack. With the force of the impact, our guy is dragged backward, showing the creature's immense power. Our protagonist admits that the creature is pretty strong as he defends against its swift blows. Our hero knows it's impossible to beat the monster with brute force, so he needs a plan. Even so, the guardian praises him and says that was to be expected from a great warrior like him. The creature then continues the attack attack with a spinning strike to catch our protagonist by surprise, but our guy dodges with agility and warns that the monster is no match for his skills. With that, he tightens his grip on his demonic sword and prepares for the counterattack. The viewers comment that he's just defending, but they think he's ridiculously strong. The people on the stream say that whoever gave the mission must be regretting it, as he would have passed normally. With a smile, our protagonist says that sometimes there are more effective methods than force. Just then, the Guardian prepares his final blow and warns that our hero's fight is over. The creature then attacks with all its might and destroys the arena floor with the force of its blow, but our guy disappears and, with red eyes, says that line is actually his. The wolf is shocked to see our protagonist behind him, saying his attacks are too simple. Our hero dodges the blow and says the wolf's attack was pretty easy to avoid. With a jump, he attacks the creature's neck, which screams in pain from the surprise blow. Our protagonist then prepares to deliver the final blow and end the fight once and for all. With a swift and precise move, he unleashes a powerful slash with his demonic sword. Our guy's eyes glow with an intense red light as he finishes the attack. The Guardian falls defeated to the ground and praises him, calling him a magnificent warrior. The system announces he has defeated the wolf and rewards him with a level up and increased stats. He also gains 500 achievement points, and the viewers are shocked by the scene. With a dirty face, our hero confirms he defeated the monster, and the stream reaches 56 viewers. The mission is completed, and he receives 3,000 credits, thanking the donor for the money. His credits and points increase, and the massive dungeon door finally opens for him. But, looking at the door, our protagonist notices something strange and is quite surprised. Several screens pop up in front of him, with different elemental trials for him to choose from. The viewers comment that the number of choices reflects the player's talent. The system then asks if he wants to challenge the trial of lightning, and the stream goes wild. Without a second thought, our hero confirms and says of course he accepts the challenge. With that, the system confirms his choice, and the trial of lightning is selected to begin. Our protagonist then steps through the portal of light and disappears to his next challenge. Meanwhile, in the office, the agency team watches everything on a large screen in the room. Seeing the scene, the woman and her partners celebrate and cheer with joy at what happened. She gets excited because the numbers climb quickly, and he had 13 trial choices. The boss admits it's impressive, as they said the wolf warrior had never been defeated, but he thinks the risk of hiring a second floor rookie is too great for them. Hearing this, the woman then challenges him and asks if he wants to make a bet with her. She says that if he fails, she and Saijin will work for a fixed salary for 5 years. Her partner panics and yells that he doesn't want to be included, but the boss tells him to shut up. The boss doubts it and says the only player who has ever obtained the lightning ability was Subaru Narukami. But the woman smiles and says they'll only know the outcome if they try, and she looks at him confidently. With a smile, John Tail accepts the bet, while the woman covers her desperate partner's mouth. Inside the portal, a screen pops up, and the system announces that the trial of lightning has begun. Suddenly, our hero notices something and yells for a guy nearby to watch out. Without a second thought, our protagonist shoves the man away from the imminent danger. With that, a huge impact occurs, and a crater forms on the ground where they were standing. The guy who was saved is shocked to see the giant fragment, a massive monster. He then turns and yells at our guy, asking if he wanted to get himself unalived by just standing there. A screen pops up with the mission to defeat the creature, and our hero wonders what it's doing here. The monster roars, and the stream viewers, confused by the appearance of that creature. Our protagonist realizes this monster should only appear in the second half of the test, and wonders if something changed because he defeated the Guardian Grag before the test. The creature then smashes the ground with its fist in a powerful and destructive attack, but our guy dodges with agility and already prepares for the upcoming combat. He knows the monster is weak, and the save guy yells for him to run and flee the fight. Our hero decides to end this quickly before someone interrupts him in the battle. With his sword in hand, he charges at the monster, and the confrontation finally begins. With a swift move, he uses the monster's arm as a springboard to jump. The creature attacks with force, but our hero is already in the air, ready for the counterattack. He firmly steps on the creature's arm to get more momentum and go even higher. With his eyes glowing red, our guy prepares for the final blow with everything he's got. The guy who was saved is open-mouthed, watching our hero fly to attack the monster. Without wasting time, he runs along the giant's body to reach a weak spot on its neck. With a precise strike, his demonic sword cuts deep into the creature's flesh with power. The monster screams in pain from the surprise attack, but our protagonist doesn't stop there. Our hero complains about the noise and gets ready to shut the creature's mouth for good. He then tells the monster to be quiet for the rest of its life and prepares the final blow. With a precise cut, he finishes off the creature, which falls backward, lifeless, to the ground. The giant fragment's eyes lose their light, and it is finally defeated for good. The system announces he has defeated the monster and passed phase 4, leaving the stream in shock. With the victory, he gains many points and new items, like the giant's heart. The viewers can't believe the 4,000 points and understand that he cleared everything at once. The saved guy points at our hero, still shocked by what just happened. He asks what our guy is, and the masked man says it's obvious just by looking. Our protagonist then states that he came here just to defeat the giant. The scene then shifts to a quiet and peaceful village in the middle of the mountains. We see a few people walking along the stone streets of this small town. Inside a simple room, our hero is sitting on the bed, fiddling with his device. The people on the stream are curious and ask him to show the items he got in the battle. Our guy agrees, as he was also curious, and decides to show the rewards. The first item is the giant's heart, a rare ring that increases his life and recovery. The second item is a rare armor with the power of lightning that nullifies negative statuses. Our hero equips the new armor, and a 5,000 credit mission pops up on the screen. With that, several other missions appear, and our guy thanks everyone for their support. He then thanks everyone and promises that he will learn the lightning ability for them. With that, he wonders why so many people are waiting for that ability, and realizes that his old identity was much more important than he imagined. Just then, someone knocks on the door, and our hero tells the person to come in. The guy he saved then enters the room along with a very serious blonde knight. The man apologizes for the delay and introduces the village captain, named Lord Pilius. He explains that giant attacks have become more frequent, and the knights are on high alert for safety. They've asked the villagers not to leave their homes for any reason. The guy comments that it's quite strange to find a stranger at such a dangerous time. With that, the blonde knight thanks our hero for protecting the village while he was away. Our guy says he just did what was natural as he remembers the knight's name. Pilius says he's the face of the village and that, luckily, they've discovered the giant's leader. With a determined look, he announces that they plan to risk their lives to corner the enemies. Swallowing their pride, the knight and his partner kneel and ask our hero to save the village. Our protagonist remains silent as the people on the stream worry about Pelias's fate. Racking his memory, our guy remembers what happens in the next phase of the story. He then remembers that in the original story, the blonde knight Pelias ends up kicking the bucket. Back in the present, our hero extends his hand and asks the knight to raise his head. With a determined look, our hero extends his hand and says he will cooperate with them. The blonde knight thanks him, and the system starts the survival phase 5 for our guy. With that, the army of knights advances along with our protagonist for the great battle. As they walk, our hero glances at his device to check the live stream. He notices that with so many viewers, the comments fly by too fast, and he can't communicate. Suddenly, the captain of the knights orders everyone to stop, as he felt something strange. His partner then points ahead, and they see a massive giant lying on the ground. It was the body of the giant's leader, who was lying there, seemingly just asleep. The blonde knight says he'll draw its attention and asks our hero to attack from behind, but our guy stops him on the spot, placing a hand on his shoulder and telling him to wait. The captain is very confused by his action, and our protagonist says that thing is strange. Just then, a mysterious light starts to glow on the ground, very close to the fallen giant's body. The ground then starts to shake violently, and all the knights panic at the situation. With a serious look, our hero realizes that thing isn't actually a human being. The giant's chest then starts to split open, revealing a strange and mysterious energy. From inside the giant's body, several smaller monsters start to emerge with sinister smiles. With that, the horde of creatures charges full speed at the knights, who are in a panic. Police despairs and yells, not understanding what the heck is happening here. One of the giants then grabs a knight, who desperately screams for the creature to stop the attack, but the monster ignores him and crushes him with force. As the poor guy begs for help, our hero watches the scene, and the reflection in his eyes shows the massacre of his allies. With a wicked smile and a dirty face, the creature seems to be enjoying the slaughter. Seeing the situation, the captain yells for all his men to run for the mountains. The monsters then charge forward, and the massacre of the knights begins without mercy. One of the creatures devours a knight who had no chance to defend against the surprise attack. A young man screams in desperation, and his companions try to hold him back to save his life. The boy then screams his brother's name, who is lying on the ground in front of the monsters. Seeing the situation, the captain yells for all his men to flee as quickly as possible. The knights are scared, but one of them says this isn't the end for all of them. With that, they all start running, and the captain yells to our hero that he's counting on him. The blonde knight then turns to our protagonist with a very serious expression on his face. Pelias asks our hero to flee and rebuild the Order of the Cavaliers again in the future, but our protagonist looks at him and says those are actually his lines to say. The knight is confused, and our guy asks why he isn't running away yet. Our hero says he can't fight if he's there, and that they'll both be done for if he stays. The blonde guy yells that he can't abandon a stranger, but our guy tells him not to say it again. With that, the knight backs off and asks our hero to hold on until he returns with reinforcements. The captain then runs and asks our hero to stay safe as he faces the monsters. With a shout, the horde of monsters charges full speed at our hero. Without hesitation, fearlessly, our protagonist runs towards the creatures with his sword in hand. With sword in hand, he warns the monsters that their opponent is him. Our guy then dodges an attack and swiftly cuts one of the giant's legs. With a spinning strike, he attacks several enemies at once in the middle of the horde. One of the creatures screams in pain while the others look on. Confused by the fight situation, the system announces he's defeated 2 creatures and gained 20 achievement points. Our hero then says he's not used to being left to fight alone. Meanwhile, the captain of the knights runs desperately through the forest to save himself. He then looks back, worried about what he left behind on the battlefield. With a sweaty and breathless face, the blonde knight keeps running without looking back. With a determined look, he bites his lip and continues his escape from that dangerous place. Back to the fight, the people on the stream comment that the score changes with the number of soldiers. Our protagonist thinks that now he can save everyone, including those who were supposed to meet their end. With that, he faces the 2 remaining giants and prepares for the next attack. With a precise strike, our hero cuts down another giant, and the system announces the victory. He then moves on to the next and defeats another creature, gaining 10 more points. The demonic sword drains his stamina, and he thinks it's not hard if it's 1 by 1, but the problem is how long he can borrow the power of that weapon. He then says he needs to secure his vision and find the leader of that horde of monsters. With that, he continues the massacre and cuts down another creature with his demonic sword. Our guy then leaps into the air and starts slicing through several enemies at once. Shown from above, our hero descends with full force on the already defeated monsters on the ground. The creatures try to grab him in the air, but he's too fast to be caught by them. With a well-aimed kick, he hits one of the giants in the face with all his might, and the people on the stream comment that one false move, and he's a goner in this insane fight. Greed's wedge resists the weapon's effect, and his stamina and mental strength recover. He knows he needs to find the leader quickly before he hits his power limit. Suddenly, he senses a powerful presence, and finally finds the leader of the horde. The leader reveals himself to be a bearded giant with a wicked smile and sharp teeth. The leader of the giants then attacks with his club, and our hero flies to dodge the blow. Our protagonist knows that if he doesn't finish him in one blow, he'll be the one defeated. With a serious look, the giant monster prepares to crush our guy with his club. Our hero then hopes his plan works, because he won't get another chance here. With his hand outstretched, a great energy starts to build up for the next attack. The system announces that he's using the thunderclap ability with all his power. With that, a massive explosion of lightning echoes across the entire battlefield with force. The smaller giants scream in pain and are stunned by the powerful electric attack. Even the leader of the horde is caught off guard and recoils from the ability's impact. Furious, the giant monster screams the word human. With all his accumulated hatred, our hero takes advantage of the opening and runs up the monster's arm to deliver the final blow. With his demonic sword, he prepares to end the fight once and for all, and stabs the sword into the giant's shoulder, who feels the powerful blow in his body. With a determined look, our guy continues to push the weapon deeper. Blood trickles from the leader's mouth, who looks shocked at the surprise attack he received. With a final, powerful blow, our hero finishes off the leader of the giants with everything he's got. The giant monster then falls to the ground, completely defeated, and the system announces the victory. With that, he passes phase 5 and achieves a notable feat, leveling up and gaining more stats. The people on the stream go wild and wonder how he defeated a monster that wasn't supposed to be beaten. Our hero then thinks that if he were a manga protagonist, everything would end in a really cool way, but the sky remains dark and full of lightning, showing that the trial isn't over yet. The remaining giants then surround our protagonist, who is already quite exhausted from the fight. The system warns that his ability failed to resist the power of the demonic sword. With his body at its limit, our guy starts to stagger, with no strength left to stay on his feet. Even crouched, he knows that even if he passes the phase, the monsters won't disappear. Our hero then gets up and continues to walk with difficulty across the battlefield. He understands that the creatures won't disappear until the test is truly finished. The mechanism he used last time to his advantage is now causing him great suffering. With his face stained with blood, our protagonist feels that the situation has gotten really bad for him. He then realizes his strength is gone, and the giants advance for the final attack. Suddenly, a strange golden energy starts to emanate from the ground with great force. With that, our hero unleashes all his power at once to end it all. The energy then explodes with full force, and a large crater forms on the ground. The scene then takes us to a very dense and isolated forest, cut off from the rest of the world. Amidst the large trees, a secret place seems to be well hidden from everyone. With that, we see a small wooden cabin that serves as a hideout for a few people. On the house's porch, a black-haired woman is sitting, relaxing and playing on her console. She seems very focused on her game and doesn't even notice someone approaching her. Suddenly, a man with long, silver hair appears and seems to be an old acquaintance. The guy asks what she's doing here, but the woman calmly replies about the nice weather of the day. She then says it's something they can only enjoy in that moment of peace. The man agrees and says there's at most a year left for what they're planning. With a serious look, he says it's time to put an end to all of this. The woman then complains that he's distracted right in the middle of a serious conversation between them. With that, the guy approaches and asks what she finds so interesting on her device. She then shows a picture and says the guy's name in the image is Subaru Narukami. Hearing the name, the silver-haired guy freaks out and asks if she really said Subaru, but the woman calms him down. She explains that it's just a streamer using his name, and we see our hero on his stream. With a serious look, the woman asks her partner if he also knows the truth. She says that if the real Subaru were alive, the traitor Kazuki would have already been erased from the tower. Angrily, she states that the former leader is gone, and that he needs to accept it once and for all. With that, the silver-haired guy turns to leave, but the woman calls him by the name Shigeru. Furious, she asks how long he's going to hide in the shadow of their former leader. The silver-haired guy turns around angrily and asks what she means by that. He says that's why she gets stuck on these things and points to the device in her hand. The woman replies that she was just passing the time, but her expression suddenly changes. Her eyes widen, and she's completely shocked by what she sees on the stream screen. Shigeru turns and asks if she's still thinking about that even after their conversation. With a shocked face, he grabs the device and wonders what that is that's happening. On the stream, a golden energy explodes and hits all the surrounding giants with full force. The creatures scream in pain as they're purified by the light of the mysterious ability. Our hero then acquires the lightning ability, and the system congratulates him on the achievement. With that, he gains 2,000 points and can go to the next floor. While the stream goes wild, the people on the stream ask how he learned the lightning ability, but our hero thinks this isn't normal. A screen explains the ability, and our guy faces the remaining monsters, thinking that at least he survived. With that, several donations of thousands of credits pour in, and our protagonist thanks everyone for their support. His credits climb to over 20,000, and he says he'll put on a show because of the donations. The remaining giants then roar in fury and prepare to charge at him with everything they've got. Our hero then decides to show his power and spends 20,000 credits to level up his ability. Greed's wedge levels up to 3 and now better resists the power of the lightning ability. With that, the power of lightning concentrates in his hand, and he prepares to attack them all at once. Alone on the battlefield, our guy faces the horde of monsters advancing towards him. The creatures run with wicked smiles on their faces, ready to finish off our protagonist. With a sigh, the power of lightning then merges with his nameless demonic sword for the attack. With immense power, he wonders if he should fight like in the old days and unleashes his aura. With a single strike, he unleashes a wave of red and black energy towards the monsters. The powerful attack then cuts through several giants at once with overwhelming force. With that, the creatures are completely annihilated by our hero's crushing power. Exhausted, our hero is panting after using all his power at once in the battle. With a dirty face, he complains, as he wanted to save some strength to get back. Looking at the damage, he realizes he miscalculated the power of his devastating attack. Suddenly, he sees that the knights he saved are returning to the battlefield. Captain Palouse and his men look shocked at all the dead giants on the ground. The blonde knight is open-mouthed, as he didn't expect our guy to win alone. With that, the captain runs towards our protagonist, calling him the village's benefactor. Our hero then turns to them, still very tired from the intense battle he just had. With a sigh, he calls the knight an idiot for coming back to the dangerous place, but Palouse and his men run fearlessly to thank the guy who saved everyone. Our guy then watches the knight running towards him. Not believing it, the scene then shifts to the agency's office, with the device on the table. Inside, the woman is desperately on the couch, and her colleagues watch her. Not understanding a thing, the boss asks if it was necessary to go that far, and her partner says he doesn't understand women. With her hands on her head, the woman thinks the situation has gotten really bad for all of them. With a red face, the woman despairs and wonders what the heck she should do now. She then regrets it and thinks her message was cold, and that she should have used more emojis. Her partner says it looked like a business message, and the boss thought she wanted to be a businesswoman, but angrily, she yells that first and foremost, she's a passionate fan and can't help it. With that, she points at the binds him of what she had already warned him about. She says that with the lightning, the ability became exclusive to the real Narukami's group. Hearing this, the boss smiles and says he's someone definitely worth watching. Suddenly, the woman receives a notification and gets super excited about the big news. With a flushed face, she celebrates, as it seems our hero read her message, but her joy turns to dust when she realizes he only saw it and didn't reply. With that, the woman soul leaves her body, and she drops dead standing up, leaving her colleagues confused. The scene shows several players in display windows, like mannequins on exhibit for someone. With that, a streamer prepares to start his stream, where he analyzes players' battles. This is Hockey, a guy who uses his sharp vision to crush his rivals in the tower. He then announces that a new talent named Kurokal Amon has emerged, who is climbing the tower very quickly. Hockey also comments on Kazuki Kyojo, the former member of the Blue Eyes who now represents Earth, but says that no matter what they say, the legend Narukami Subaru will always be the greatest of all. With that, he starts his stream and says he's going to analyze the hottest player of the moment, Narukami Subaru. Seeing the chat in an uproar, he asks them to calm down and not to start bashing the guy without even seeing him. With that, the stream shows our hero fighting, and Hockey is shocked, wondering what's happening. With a smile on his face, the streamer is impressed by what he's seeing on the stream's screen. He wonders what kind of concentration that is, as a normal human wouldn't control a new ability like that. Hockey explains that he controlled the ability perfectly and infused it into his sword without wasting anything. With absurd control and technique, he used the power precisely where he needed to, without a single mistake. He then warns that this guy will definitely be someone important, and that he'll keep watching him. A viewer asks for a final summary, and Hockey realizes he forgot to give his one-liner comment. Hockey then says that, in terms of control, he might be superior to the original Narukami in his prime. Hearing this, our protagonist is completely shocked by the big comparison he just made. With that, the system announces that Phase 6 is ready and asks if he wants to suspend the trial. Even with his fatigue recovered, our guy is mentally exhausted and thinks about pausing the test. He then grabs his device and notices something that leaves him quite surprised about the stream's situation. Seeing the 742 viewers, he thanks everyone and wonders when it grew so much. Our hero then apologizes and announces that the next stream will be the day after tomorrow, as he needs to rest. With that, he ends the broadcast, and a blue light portal appears for him to finally leave. Our guy then steps out of the trial and returns to the white space between the floors. Alone in the place, our protagonist begins to explore the vast white stage that surrounds him. With that, he walks towards a stone gate while carefully checking his device. He then receives a message from Souten Entertainment from a woman named Hatsuka from management. With a bead of sweat on his face, our hero wonders if this is just some spam trying to trick him. Without his mask, he's confused by the company's name and doesn't understand what's happening. The scene then shifts to a coffee shop on a sunny day, where he's likely headed. In the coffee shop, our hero calmly sips his coffee while researching something on his device. He discovers Souten Entertainment, a streamer company, and thinks about how much the world has changed. Our guy realizes the company is quite large and one of the best in the entertainment business. On the device, he sees comments about Hockey's stream and how he praised the new Narukami. With that, he discovers that Hockey is also from that agency and is known for being a very harsh commentator. Even so, our protagonist admits with a smile that the streamer has a good eye for talent. Suddenly, someone with stylish black boots enters the coffee shop, drawing everyone's attention. This is Kuroko Amon, who stops in front of the place with a very determined and serious look. On his device, he sees Hockey's comment comparing him to the original Narukami in his prime. Angrily, he complains that the guy just got to the second floor and doesn't deserve that comparison. Furious with the streamer's audacity, he swears he'll pluck the guy's eyes out when he finds him. The guy then stomps his foot on the ground with force, showing all his frustration with the situation. With his mood ruined first thing in the morning, he enters the place to try and forget what happened. With a forced and sinister smile, he tries to hide his anger, but doesn't succeed very well. With that, he sees our hero and wonders if it's his unlucky day for running into so many people. Our hero then relaxes in a coffee shop while calmly fiddling with his device. But suddenly, Isaac appears behind him with a very intimidating and serious posture. The bully then deliberately bumps into the table and knocks our guy's coffee onto the floor. With the hot liquid, our protagonist jumps back, crying out in pain from the burn. He then glares at the guy angrily, and the bully apologizes with a mocking tone in his voice. With a smile on his face, Isaac recognizes him and asks if he's the Subaru he knows. He comments that they've been bumping into each other a lot, and that the second floor is pretty small for them. Unconcerned, our hero ignores him and goes back to his device as if nothing happened. The bully then asks if he wants compensation for the coffee, since he's broke. Seeing the lack of reaction, the bully's eye glows with an intense red light of pure rage. Our guy then gets up to leave, but Isaac calls out to stop him in his tracks. With a serious look, our protagonist glares at him and asks if he has a screw loose. Furious Furious with his audacity, the bully grabs him by the shirt collar and calls him a scumbag. He then threatens him, saying he'll finish him off like in the old days if he doesn't obey, but our hero interrupts him and, with an apology, grabs the bully's hand tightly. Our hero says he doesn't have time for this and squeezes the bully's hand with great force. At this, Isaac is shocked and wonders if the guy was always this strong. Our guy then lets him go and tells him to consider the coffee paid for before leaving. Furious with his attitude, the bully yells for our hero not to leave and to wait there, but our protagonist ignores him and leaves the place while the guy yells for him to come back. The coffee shop door then closes and the bell chimes, leaving the bully alone and furious. Alone in the place, the bully sighs in frustration as he just wanted to climb the tower in peace. Angrily, he complains that first it was Narukami and now Hozoi Subaru annoying him. He then runs out of the coffee shop, yelling that they all keep provoking him nonstop. Outside, our hero checks his device and suddenly remembers something important. With the device in hand, he seems to have remembered the message he received earlier. The scene then shifts to a rubber ducky floating in a bubble-filled bathtub. With that, the agency woman relaxes in the bath and sends a message to our hero, asking to meet. The scene then takes us to a dark dungeon filled with the bodies of monsters our hero defeated. With his demonic sword in hand, he prepares for what's to come on his journey. A screen pops up, and the system announces that he's entering the dungeon's boss room. His ability resists the weapon's power, and he thinks he's gotten used to his new body. Suddenly, a flaming blur charges towards our protagonist with great speed. The monster reveals itself to be a giant, furious salamander that rushes to attack the guy. The system then announces that the boss salamander has appeared, and the creature roars in fury in the arena. Our guy then decides he needs to test his lightning ability to master his power. With that, he faces the monster and prepares to test the maximum potential of his abilities. Our protagonist then charges the power of lightning into his legs to increase his speed. With a swift move, he dodges the creature's attack, passing by it like a flash of lightning. With a focused look, his former self seems to merge with him, showing his great evolution. The salamander roars in frustration as its attack missed the fast-moving target. Angrily, the creature then shoots a large fireball towards our protagonist. Our hero then decides to charge his demonic sword with the power of lightning for the final blow. With a swift move, our hero charges through the middle of the fireball for the final attack. His ability fails to resist, and his fatigue increases, but he doesn't stop his attack on the creature. With his former self backing him up, our protagonist delivers the final blow with all his might. With that, the salamander is defeated, and our hero clears the dungeon, leveling up and gaining more stats. After the battle, our guy leaves the dungeon and walks through a dark and very quiet forest. He then checks his fatigue and notices that his ability's effect was better than he expected. But seeing the cost to level up his ability, he complains that 40,000 credits is way too expensive. With a sigh, he wishes someone would just pop up out of nowhere and offer him a good job. Suddenly, he notices the silhouette of a mysterious man standing in the middle of the dark forest. The stranger approaches and comments on hunting, leaving our protagonist very confused by the situation. With a sinister look, the hooded man stares at our hero with his eyes glowing in the darkness. The man then reveals his face and says it's a surprise, as they've known each other for a long time. Our guy glares back at him and calls him a very persistent guy for being there in front of him. The stranger says he thought a lot about it, but the anger made him lose his patience for good. The two then stand there, staring each other down, ready for whatever happens next. Isaac catches up to our hero and, with a smile, suggests they finish things right there. Our guy looks at him seriously, thinking that this guy is a pretty big problem. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a bustling city with a large tower in the center. Through the streets, we see the famous streamer Hockey walking with a very serious expression. Suddenly, a hand stops him, and his boss says he finally found him. Sitting in a coffee shop, the agency's boss, John Tail, was waiting for his employee. He then greets the guy and asks if his stream has been going well lately. Hockey says it's so, as the viewers are always the same old faces, but the boss thinks that's healthier, as what's built slowly doesn't collapse easily. The streamer then asks the reason for the sudden call, and the boss praises his intuition. John Tail gets straight to the point and asks if he was serious about the new Subaru Narukami. Hockey confirms and says the rookie's talent is greater than the originals in his prime. Our protagonist's eye gleams as his great potential is discussed by them. With that, the boss reveals that he's thinking of recruiting our hero for his agency. The streamer likes the idea but remembers that he has few viewers and little recognition. The boss agrees and says that what Hockey said gave him more confidence in the guy. With that, he proposes a collaboration between the streamer and our hero to increase his recognition. Back in the forest, Isaac says with a wicked smile that now it's just the two of them. Our protagonist then agrees and looks at him with a very serious expression on his face. The bully mocks him, saying he got carried away and entered the dungeon, which is why he told him to stay behind. He then approaches and asks if our hero dreams of mastering lightning, like that streamer. Angrily, Isaac curses the name of Subaru Narukami and says he should have stayed quiet in his grave. With eyes red with hatred, he complains that everyone keeps annoying him nonstop. With that, the bully grabs our guy by the collar and asks if he understands the situation. Our hero, with a bead of sweat on his face, thinks he didn't expect an arrow with so many copycats. He then asks why Isaac treats him like such a huge enemy. The bully replies that it's because of his name, and our guy questions the reason for the hatred. Hearing the question, the blonde-haired guy is completely shocked and speechless. Isaac yells about his father, but our hero asks what that has to do with the conversation. Then, the name Reinhardt comes up, and we discover he's a ranker from the 9th floor of the tower. Our hero is shocked and asks if he's the famous one-hit swordsman he knows. A memory from the past surfaces, and in an emergency, something unbelievable had happened in the tower. In the flashback, we see that Subaru Narukami defeated the ranker Reinhardt from the Rune continent. The scene shows that the fight ended with just a single blow from our protagonist in the past. It all happened in less than 30 seconds, and the ranker was trying to get up to fight more. But Reinhardt's hand was trembling with weakness, showing he had already been defeated in the fight. With that, the powerful swordsman finally collapses to the ground, completely beaten by our hero. Back in the present, Isaac furiously yells for our guy not to say his name so lightly. Our protagonist understands and asks if the reason for all this is his father's nickname as a swordsman. Angrily, our hero then asks if Isaac has any idea how much Subaru Hosoi suffered because of this. Furious with his audacity, the bully tells our guy to shut up and engulfs himself in flames. But our protagonist glares at him seriously and says he's not going to shut up for him at all. With a determined look, our guy faces the bully's flames without a shred of fear. With his body on fire, Isaac prepares to attack our hero with all his firepower. He then tells our protagonist to stop talking and hurry up and meet his end already. With his body in flames, Isaac yells that he hates Narukami Subaru and that the name makes him sick. He says the guild leader was arrogant, and that's why his companions also got cocky. With a hateful look, the bully says they deserve the tragic end they had in the tower, and with a wicked smile, he imagines them all rotting in hell right now. The guy then says that getting that name was the end of our guy's luck. With that, he launches a powerful fireball towards our protagonist with all his might, but our hero simply blows away the smoke and shows that the attack did nothing to him. Seeing this, Isaac is startled and says he misjudged the force of his fire attack. With a smile, he says that maybe his next victim will be that masked streamer from the stream. Hearing this, the bully is shocked and repeats the word masked, very confused by the situation. He then looks into the smoke and sees our hero's silhouette emerging slowly from the flames. Our protagonist then shows his mask and asks if that's the one he's talking about. At this, the bully panics and desperately yells that this is impossible. He then asks how our guy managed to withstand his fire head on like that. Our hero then stumps on the ground and asks if the feeling isn't very pleasant for the guy. With a furious look, our hero advances and says a brat like him shouldn't talk like that. He then lands a solid punch on the bully's face, who is shocked by the force of the blow. The guy's eye gleams with pain as he feels the impact of the powerful attack he received. With that, our guy throws him to the ground with force, and the bully screams in agony nonstop. Blood trickles from his mouth as he continues to scream desperately in pain. Our protagonist looks down at him and scolds him for speaking ill of his companions. The guy then coughs and wonders why he's doing this, as it can't be true. Our hero then proposes a little quiz for the bully lying on the ground. He asks if he's the weak Hosoi Subaru or the mysterious streamer Narukami Subaru, or maybe if he's the real Narukami Subaru with the blue eyes everyone knows. The bully doesn't believe it and says he's just trying to save the fake streamer with this act. Angrily, he says the lightning ability isn't that big of a deal as everyone thinks. He then asks if our hero really thinks he can beat him with that level of power. Isaac brags, saying this means he's even above the real Narukami Subaru. With that, he yells and charges at our hero again with his flames, but our hero is faster and with a single blow, he cuts through the fire user's attack. The bully is confused, as his powerful fire attack was easily destroyed by him. Our protagonist says the answer was wrong and that he's impressed by so much nonsense. With the sword at his throat, the bully asks what he means by all that, not understanding. A drop of sweat rolls down his face as he realizes the dangerous situation he's gotten himself into. Our guy then asks if he has any idea how much Hosoi Subaru suffered because of everything. He then says that having a brat like him speak ill of his friends is not a good feeling. The bully starts to sweat, cold as he begins to understand who's really in front of him. At this, Isaac finally realizes the truth and says that he is Blue Eyes Narukami himself. Without a second thought, our protagonist pierces the bully's chest with his demonic sword. With a serious look, our hero says that playtime is over and things are about to change. The bully's legs give out and he falls to the ground, completely defeated by the surprise attack. Our hero puts his mask back on and says he's already given him more trouble than he deserved. He then says to consider it a thank you for borrowing his body and goes on his way. A woman in a cafe asks what that was all about and if he was just a fan of Narukami Subaru. Sitting in a cafe, our hero fiddles with his device and seems to be live streaming. As a streamer, he'll maintain the policy of not showing his face, as it's a huge advantage. Suddenly, the agency woman arrives and apologizes for the delay in meeting him. With a flushed and nervous face, she says it's a pleasure to meet him and introduces herself as the one who contacted him. With an excited smile, she introduces herself as Hatsuka, the manager of the streamer agency. He then greets her and introduces himself as Narukami Subaru, and she says she's honored. With a keen eye, the woman thinks that the two of them really do look alike somehow. She then wonders if he's the real Narukami who came back or just an imposter. Our guy notices the awkwardness and asks if there's something wrong with her. In a flashback, her boss yells about first impressions, and she realizes she failed. Our protagonist then looks at her, confused, as the woman bows in shame in front of him. He then asks if she was a fan of the old Narukami Subaru, and the woman yells yes. Our hero says he's not the real one and tells her to relax, but the woman says she's a fan of him too. With great excitement, she says she's been watching him from the beginning and was amazed by his fights. Our guy wonders if she's really his first viewer, as she seems to remember more than he does. Our hero smiles and says he was pretty clueless and that it's amazing she was watching. The woman gets super excited and says it was fate, which is why she begged to be his manager. With a serious posture, she announces that the contract is ready and that she'll summarize it for him. She explains that they'll help create ads and clips using the Narukami icon for him. Our guy asks what he needs to do, and she says he just needs to keep streaming as usual. He's surprised, but she says it's because he's the first to master lightning, and the company values him highly. She congratulates herself, and our hero asks if all managers are like her and about the contract terms. At this, the woman gets all flustered and says the others are more professional, and he says that's not what he meant. She thinks that from his aura. He's not an ordinary player, and that she's completely screwed. Our protagonist thinks his opponents will be stronger, and that there's no time to rest. The woman worries, as she needs to make a good impression, and fears he'll reject the contract. Our hero extends his hand and says he understands he can trust her, leaving her in shock with his hand outstretched. Our guy then asks her to take good care of him from now on. Overjoyed, she takes his hand and says she's the one who should be saying that to him. Our hero then starts his live stream, and the chat immediately starts buzzing with the news. With that, he realizes he already has over 700 viewers watching his stream. Our protagonist is surprised by so many viewers and wonders if it's because of Hatsuka's announcement. The agency woman then announces the skill distribution schedule for all the fans. Without wasting time, our guy decides to start, and the system begins the legendary 6th phase. The scene then takes us to a rainy camp in the middle of a very dark forest. Inside one of the tents, we see some wooden boxes stacked in the corner. With that, a group of knights gathers around a table to plan their next strategy. The blonde knight then asks his men where the benefactor who helped them is, but one of the knights doubts him and thinks it's risky to trust an unknown stranger. Another guy warns that he might have been tricked, and that it might not have been the giant's leader. Hearing this, the blonde guy gets irritated and yells at his men for doubting the guy who saved them. Suddenly, one of the knights announces that the benefactor has finally woken up, and our hero appears. The captain then runs over worriedly, but our guy says he can already walk normally. The other knights look at him with suspicion and find his mask very questionable. Our hero then asks if they don't believe him, or maybe they don't want to believe it. In a flashback, the manager explains how he can adjust the microphone so only the viewers can hear. Our protagonist finds the feature very useful in annoying situations, and the knights find him insolent. An older knight then extends his hand and says he first needs to thank him for everything. He then introduces himself as Dale and seems to be one of the leaders of that group of warriors. Our guy greets him, and Dale says he was protecting the village, but they were all trampled. With a worried look, the old warrior confirms that the village was destroyed by that guy. Our hero asks if there's someone more dangerous than the leader, and the old man confirms it for sure. He explains that the true giants who fought with the gods were sealed and disappeared. Dale continues, saying that the pieces of the giants that were left are still scattered around, and that most of the giants now are just the thoughts they left behind. But he warns that the giant that appeared is different and is close to the giants of ancient legend. The people on the stream comment that this would be 8th floor level and that no one has reached it yet. With a determined look, our hero says they have no other choice but to defeat him. Dale says he's very confident, but that it's an impossible request as he hasn't seen the monster. The blonde knight then interrupts the discussion and yells the benefactor's name with all his might. He then tells about an ancient legend of a lightning fragment hidden in the Millennium Mountain. With a serious look, he says that only a special person can find that legendary item. The blonde guy then reveals that he believes our hero is the only one who can find the fragment. With that, a memory shows the village being attacked and the residents running desperately from the fire. The giants called Paddle then begin to attack the villagers without any mercy. Suddenly, a larger giant appears and calls the other creatures his children with a dark voice. A poor knight screams in pain as he's crushed by the giant creature attacking him. With a sinister look, the creature holds the knight and says it will finish him off for good. With a single squeeze, the monster then ends the poor knight's life, who had no chance. The giant then shows its dirty hands and says it will send him off with the blood of humans. The reflection in our protagonist's eye shows the horrible scene he's witnessing. Riding his horse, our guy observes the monster from a distance, and the stream goes wild with the scene. The horse gets spooked by the creature's presence, and our hero says it's trying to take them out. The blonde guy warns that the giants will take 3 days to arrive, and that he should flee if he doesn't find the lightning. Our hero then rides towards the Millennium Mountain, as he needs the power to win. But he rejects the idea of fleeing, and says there's no trial in the tower he can't overcome. He then realizes he used an old catchphrase, and the people on the stream recognize the line. Our guy checks the missions on his device, and is relieved not to have been discovered. With that, he grips the reins tightly to speed up his horse's pace. Then, he speeds off with his horse towards the mountain for the final challenge. He finally arrives at the base of the rocky mountain, and dismounts his horse. Our protagonist thinks that a lightning fragment is hidden here somewhere. With his horse, he faces the immense stone wall that he'll have to climb for the test. He then approaches and touches the rock, preparing for the challenge ahead. In a memory, the blonde guy says the fragment is from Legends, and no one knows what it is. Our hero asks how to get it, but the blonde guy only knows the location and the legend of the item. But Peleus says one thing is for sure: whoever used the lightning once annihilated the giants. Back in the present, the agency manager looks at a device and wonders what happened. With a shout, she celebrates on the phone. As the contract with our hero was successfully finalized, her boss celebrates on the phone and says Hatsuka has finally become a real person. At this, she's happy and asks if he's praising her, but he says he met with Haki. The boss then warns that he has something important to tell her soon and hangs up with the job done. She throws herself on the bed and decides it's time to watch the stream. With a completely flushed face, the woman prepares to see her new favorite streamer in action. She says that watching on screen and live is the greatest pleasure a fan like her can have. On the stream, our hero repeats that there's no trial in this tower he can't overcome. Hearing the phrase, the manager's eyes go wide with what she just heard. With a huge shock, she sits up in bed, not believing the coincidence that just happened. A tear rolls down her eye, as that was a phrase from over 20 years ago. Back on the mountain, a golden energy begins to surge from the heavens with great intensity. Golden lightning then surrounds our protagonist, and the people on the stream are very confused by the scene. With his foot on the ground, he asks which of the two is tougher and prepares for the test. Our guy then clenches his fist and says they'll fight to the end, without giving up. With that, he punches the mountain with all his might, and a massive energy explosion occurs. With the impact, the ground shatters completely, and our hero stands in the middle of the destruction, with a smile on his face and golden lightning surrounding him. He says he finally found what he was looking for. With the ground all cracked, our hero faces the result of his powerful punch on the mountain. A golden energy surrounds him, and he says this feeling can't be experienced on a stream. Our protagonist feels an immense lightning power calling to his own electrical ability. Looking ahead, he sees a crack in the mountain that looks like the entrance to the final test. With firm steps, our guy then walks towards the large stone entrance. He stops in front of a giant door, and the people on the stream suggest he break it down. Without a second thought, our hero extends his hand to touch the large stone door. Upon touching the door, golden lightning appears, and he realizes that was a pretty obvious clue. The system generates the lightning, and his ability resists the power as he prepares for the test. With a clenched fist, he fills himself with power, and the stream goes wild with the idea of breaking the door. Our protagonist says that if the power calls to him with such force, he will definitely answer. Then, with a shout, he prepares a punch with all his power to answer the mountain's call. With that, the lightning punch hits dead on, and the stone door shatters into 1,000 pieces. Our hero then enters through the newly opened passage towards the golden light on the other side. The massive stone door is now open, showing the path to the next challenge in the tower. With the door destroyed, the people on the stream go wild, and our hero continues to advance. Our protagonist then falls silent and faces what's to come with great seriousness. With firm steps, our guy walks into the darkness without a shred of fear. He then continues walking down the dark corridor towards his next challenge. The system announces that he has entered the path of lightning and cannot leave until he clears the phase. Meanwhile, at the camp, the rain falls heavily, and the knights prepare for the worst. Inside the tent, the warriors gather to discuss what they'll do next in the battle. The older knight then asks Peleus if he really thinks our hero will succeed. With a confident smile, the blonde knight says he's sure our guy will succeed. The old man says it's a lot of trust in a stranger, but Peleus says his strength has already been proven. Desperately, the old warrior yells that it doesn't matter, as they're all all going to be unalived anyway. With a serious look, the blonde guy turns and tells the old man that he's not understanding anything. A young knight then trembles in fear and remembers the power of the giant he saw in the village. With that, police kneels and tells the young man that even so, they can't give up. He then asks everyone to trust the young hero, who's doing everything for them for free. The young knight remains desperate and says it's easy for the captain to talk. At this, the other knights look at the young man with very serious expressions in the camp. Suddenly, a huge tremor occurs, and a mug of drink falls onto the table with a crash. A knight then enters the tent, desperately yelling that the enemy has finally arrived. Hearing the warning, all the warriors are in shock and prepare for the worst to come. Meanwhile, the scene takes us to a large, cold, and silent ice cave. Inside, our protagonist observes the place, wondering where the heck he's ended up. Our hero then walks through the snow and wonders what he needs to do in this place. The people on the stream comment that there's nothing there, but someone says that lightning is too fast. Our guy thinks about it and realizes the idea makes sense, as lightning is charges in the air. He then concludes that's why he couldn't see it, and that it's not a test of looking with his eyes. With that, he remembers that the test's name is the path where lightning walks. Our protagonist feels a powerful lightning calling him and understands it's his own strength falling. With a shocked look, without his mask, he seems to finally understand what he needs to do. He then crouches and extends his hand, as he already knows what this test probably is. He then throws a stone and thinks about the invisible lightning scattered in the air. With that, the stone is enveloped by lightning, and he realizes that the deeper he goes, the stronger the reaction. The stone then explodes with a massive discharge of golden energy. In the middle of the path, golden lightning explodes in the cave, and the people on the stream are confused by what happened. With a smile, he says he was right, but that he has no other choice but to continue. Our protagonist then starts running, and thinks they're testing his endurance. With a cracked mask, he understands that basically, if he can't take it, it's game over for him. Several donations and missions pop up on the stream to encourage our hero to keep going. With a determined look, our guy thanks everyone for their support and the rewards. The scene then shifts to a pot of stew cooking in a cozy fireplace. Nearby, the silver-haired guy is sitting, relaxing and fiddling with his device. He then falls silent with a very serious expression on his face. As he looks at the screen, suddenly, a woman appears and startles him, making him jump out of his chair in surprise. She then approaches and asks what the heck he's doing with the device. With a smile, she asks why he's hiding it and if he was watching something naughty. The silver-haired guy denies it and says he wasn't hiding anything and his eyes were just tired. With a smile, the woman teases him and says that hair grows faster with certain things. She then says she stopped watching the stream because of him, but couldn't help it and came back. The woman finds his reaction strange and asks if he doesn't want her to relax on the house's couch. With a red face, the guy yells that she didn't have to talk to him like that. He then complains that his eardrums are going to burst and asks her to relax without worrying. Discreetly, the silver-haired guy then mutes his device so he won't get caught. The woman finds that very strange, as he's stubborn and never listens to anyone normally. With that, she gets up angrily and pulls him by the arm to leave at once. He then tells her to stay a little longer and that she can even lie down if she wants to relax. The woman then leaves and goes up the stairs, leaving the guy alone with his device, alone in the place. The silver-haired guy sighs in relief as he was almost caught red-handed. He thinks that if she knew about the stream, she will cause a huge scene, and he doesn't even want to imagine it. With a serious look, he thinks that even if it were the other way around, Subaru would never forget them. Watching the stream, he realizes that the personality and the way of speaking are the same as the old Subarus. On the screen, our hero thanks them for the donations, but the silver-haired guy finds him different from the original who farmed credits. Suddenly, a hand touches his shoulder, and the woman says he should be asking himself what all that was about. With a shocked face, the guy turns and she asks if he thought she wouldn't notice anything. With a sinister look, the woman warns him that he's 100 years too early to try and fool her. A screen pops up and asks him to trace the path of lightning, and a tear with golden energy rolls down his face. With a focused look, our protagonist prepares for the challenge ahead inside that ice cave. As he takes a step, a golden energy starts to crackle around his feet, showing the power of the place. With that, golden lightning strikes him with full force, and a screen shows his progress is still very low. He then clenches his fist and feels the energy of the lightning coursing through his entire body with great intensity. Our hero says this feeling is very familiar, as he has dealt with the power of lightning countless times. With a serious look, he prepares for the test, as he knows this is his specialty. After all, the progress climbs to 3%, and he knows the journey ahead will still be very long. Even so, our guy continues to advance with firm steps, as he has a plan in mind. Then, he starts running, and the people on the stream wonder why he's not running faster to escape. Our hero warns that he won't be able to read the chat, and people speculate that he's too injured for that. With his hand outstretched, he thinks that reaching the goal is already a given for him in this test. But if it's possible, our protagonist wants to aim for something even bigger and exceed all expectations. The scene then takes us to the famous streamer Haki, who watches everything with a very serious expression. With a focused look, Haki seems completely shocked by what he's seeing on the stream. The boss then says that Haki and Narukami Subaru should do a collaboration together for the project. With a mug in hand, he says he always says the same thing to the streamer he's advising. He explains that in streaming entertainment, you only do half the work, and that's part of the evaluation. Haki says that popularity is defined by who your family is and which players exist in the era. The boss agrees and says that Subaru's streams are more like a veteran's vlog than a chat. He then warns that Subaru may be a rookie, but Haki just needs to do his usual content. With a smile, the boss says this could be a real opportunity to ride the comet's tail. John Tail encourages him become a star who rises along with our hero, and Haki seems determined. His eye then gleams with an intense golden flame, showing all his great determination. He remembers that he ran away because he lacked the confidence to climb the tower, but he wanted to be greater than everyone. The reflection in the streamer's eye then changes and shows a vast universe full of stars and planets. Looking at the starry sky on his screen, he imagines himself becoming one of those great stars. He then extends his hand and wonders if he can really become like them one day in the future. Suddenly, he snaps out of his daydream and is startled by a loud shout of surprise. With a confused look, the streamer wonders what the heck he was doing in the middle of work. Seeing the scene, Haki panics and asks if our hero is in his right mind. On the live stream, our protagonist is enduring the pain of the lightning strikes hitting him. Even with his body all injured, he continues to withstand the immense power of that trial. With that, he stumps his foot hard on the ground and prepares for what's to come on his journey. Our hero then endures the discharge of golden lightning that surrounds him with great intensity. Panting and with a dirty face, he faces the challenge with a very determined and serious look. He knows that the stronger the lightning, the deeper it penetrates and spreads through his body. With his hands clenched and surrounded by lightning, our guy says that should be enough, and with that, even his smallest meridians begin to flow with the power of lightning throughout his body. His progress climbs to 20%, and he continues to absorb the golden energy with all his might. The system announces that the activation has begun, and that the lightning is now settling in his body. With a determined look, our protagonist says he needs to master that power no matter what. A screen explains that with the meridians opened, the internal energy has reached his entire body. He says that Hosoi Subaru didn't purify his meridians, which is why he's taking a risky shortcut. With a hand on his wound, he thinks that normally this would be done with the user's own mana. He knows that using an external lightning source makes things easier, but the pain it causes is unimaginable. Even with his body at its limit, he continues to endure the lightning discharge without giving up for a second. Meanwhile, the black-haired woman watches everything in her room with a very serious expression. On her device, she sees our hero enduring the pain and is very worried about his situation. With a shocked look, she wonders if he's really trying to open his meridians there. The woman thinks that he's moving his body and using an external power instead of his own mana. She knows the pain must be absurd and that most people would pass out 10 times in the process. Even if his end in the game doesn't affect reality, the pain he feels is the same as in real life. With that, she keeps wondering why the heck he's going so far in that challenge. With a flushed face, she continues to watch the live stream without blinking an eye. The progress climbs to 50%, and the meridian activation continues with full force. Crouched in pain, our guy blames himself and says that all of this is his fault alone. He then thinks that it's as if he himself was responsible for everyone's end. A memory surfaces, and he was telling his companions that there's no trial that can't be overcome. With a confident smile, his former self was asking his friends not to worry about anything. In his memory, he was saying that in the end, the one who'd win the battle would always be him. With blood streaming down his mask, he blames himself for what happened in the past. He thinks that if he hadn't been so careless and overconfident, none of this would have happened. With his eyes bleeding, he laments, as no one needed to leave that way. The image of the traitor with a sinister smile and a dagger in hand appears in his mind. Kazuki was saying that they failed because they were too full of themselves and thought they were invincible. Back in the present, our hero continues to endure the pain and blame himself for the past. With slow steps, he walks and says that all of this is his fault alone. Lying on the cave floor, he seems very small before the immense power of the lightning. Even on the ground, the golden energy continues to flow through his body without stopping for a second. With a heavy soul, our hero feels himself falling and says that all of this is his fault alone. Suddenly, he wakes up in a green field and wonders where the heck he is now. Looking ahead, our protagonist sees his old companions gathered around a campfire. With a bead of sweat on his face, he's completely shocked by this impossible scene. His eyes widen, and he wonders if those are really his old friends in front of him. Our hero then starts calling out the names of all his companions. One by one, a strange energy pulls him down, and he wonders if this is all just a dream, but the scene changes, and he's back with his friends, as if nothing happened. With a relieved smile, our guy says he knew everything would be fine in the end. Our protagonist then says he had a nightmare and wants to tell them about it. Suddenly, the mood changes, and his friends accuse him of giving up on them in the past. Scared, our hero calls their names, not understanding what's happening. A female companion then questions why he didn't protect them after being so cocky. Chino appears with a fatal wound and asks why he couldn't protect them. With the reflection of the scene in his eye, he whispers her name with great pain in his heart. The campfire goes out, and a red energy consumes all his old companions. With a panicked face, our hero screams in desperation. As this can't be real, scary and distorted shadows begin to emerge from the darkness to haunt him. Our protagonist is then dragged into an abyss of darkness by the souls of his friends. With his hand outstretched, he screams desperately, begging everyone not to leave. Our guy continues to plead for his companions not to abandon him again. With tears of sweat streaming down, he feels the pain of losing everyone once more. Lying on the ground, our hero begs for them to stay with him. Please. Suddenly, a great flash of blue light shatters the illusion and brings him back to reality. Lying on the ground, he realizes it was a hallucination and that he almost lost himself in the test. The system announces that the progress is almost complete and his magic power increases by 1, but he's grateful, as the trial reminded him of the real reason he lives. With the traitor's image in mind, our protagonist is filled with determination for the future. Meanwhile, in the village, the knights and residents gather for the upcoming battle. With tools in hand, the residents look desperate and ready to fight for their lives. Suddenly, a massive giant appears in the middle of the village, terrorizing all the residents. With a sinister smile, the creature faces the warriors, ready for the final massacre. A knight panics and says the masked man ran away and abandoned them, but the captain tells his men that their benefactor will surely return to help. Angrily, the blonde guy yells at his men for doubting and trusting a stranger to fight, and then questions them, asking if they even be called true knights. With a hand on his shoulder, the older knight calms him down and agrees with what he said. He says that before asking whose fault it is, their duty is to protect the village. With that, he draws his crystal sword, which glows with an intense bluish light. The old warrior then says that knights are those who protect, not those who are protected. With a war cry, he tells everyone to meet their end like knights, and prepares for the fight. All the warriors then charge full speed at the giant, without fear of their end. Meanwhile, our hero's progress climbs to 99%, and he's almost there. With that, a sphere of golden energy materializes in front of him with great power. Our guy doesn't know what it is, but based on the progress, he knows this is his final goal. The system warns that his fatigue has climbed to 97, and he feels there's just a little more to go. With his mask cracking, he continues to withstand the immense power of that trial. Our hero then says there's just one more step, and the system warns him of the danger he's in. Without caring about the warnings, our guy takes the final step towards his goal. Meanwhile, in the village, the battle begins, and one of the knights stumps his foot hard on the ground. With a war cry, the older knight charges full speed at the giant. With his sword in hand, the old warrior prepares for the first attack against the monster. With a spinning and precise strike, he manages to cut off the creature's arm with his sword. With the impact of the blow, blood splatters everywhere, showing the knight's strength. The giant then screams in pain from the surprise attack he received from the old warrior. With that, the creature retaliates, but the blonde knight steps in front to defend his companion. With a war cry, Peleus tells the old warrior to leave the rest to him now. The captain then stomps his foot hard on the ground, preparing for his next move. With a powerful leap, the blonde guy charges at the giant with his sword in hand. The creature screams in fury upon seeing the knight coming towards it for the final attack. With a determined look, the blonde knight grips his sword tightly for the blow. With that, he hits the giant dead on with a powerful slash of bluish energy. The creature then growls in pain from the impact of the powerful attack it received from the knight. With the blow, the monster's head explodes, and it screams in agony from the pain it feels. After the attack, the blonde knight lands safely on the ground and prepares for the next. Seeing the scene, one of the knights celebrates and says they finally defeated the monster. Angrily, the knights curse the monster and continue to attack the fallen body on the ground. The blonde guy says they can relax, as the most dangerous one is gone, but the old man looks worried. With a serious look, the old warrior says the monster that worried him wasn't that won. But the other knights celebrate and say their leaders are amazing for winning. One of the warriors then says that now they just need to get rid of the remaining giants in the village. Suddenly, a giant hand appears and smashes the ground where the other monster was lying. The two leaders then look up in panic and realize this is the real danger. A young knight then screams in desperation, as that monster is on a different level. Meanwhile, our hero's progress climbs to 99%, and he reaches the orb. With the orb in hand, he says he'll make the traitor apologize, and the system shows 100% progress. Our hero then swears with a hateful look that he'll take Kyojo's head as a souvenir. With that, he turns and walks out of the place, surrounded by golden lightning everywhere. The energy then explodes with full force, and our guy becomes a being of pure golden light. With his new armor shining, he says he's finally obtained the power he so desired. With his face stained with blood, he wonders if the test is finally over for real. His eye then gleams with an intense golden light, showing his new and powerful strength. The system announces that his meridians have been opened and his powers and stats have greatly increased, but he complains that if he took one more hit, he definitely wouldn't have been able to take the pain. With a bleeding hand, he asks for at least a warning before he passes out on the ground. With that, our protagonist faints, and the system announces that he has passed the legendary phase. In the agency's office, the boss John Tail watches the stream with a very serious face. Seeing our hero passed out, he comments that there's a limit to a player's recklessness. With that, he slams the table and thinks the guy wasn't made to be a real streamer. Suddenly, his device starts ringing, and it was a call from the famous streamer Haki. John answers, and the streamer excitedly asks if he also saw the insane scene that just happened. Haki says our hero is a star, but the boss tells him to calm down and explain properly. The streamer says he's good as both a player and a streamer, but John thinks he's a very rough player. With a smile, Haki says that's the point, because the original Narukami was a real player. He explains that the viewers long to see the form of a true player in action. With that, the boss starts to understand that they're witnessing the birth of a new legend. With a serious look, he realizes they're watching the rise of the new Narukami in real time. Back on the stream, our hero's hand twitches in the snow, showing he's still alive. The people on the stream go wild, and our guy finally starts to get up from the ground. With a determined look, his eye gleams with an intense golden light of power. He then grabs his tablet to check the system, and complains that his fatigue is at its limit. With the tablet in hand, our hero sees his fatigue is at 81, but his stats have gone up. With that, several missions are completed, and he receives thousands of credits as a reward for his effort. His credits climb to over 20,000, and our guy is satisfied with the money he's accumulated, but he realizes he still doesn't have the 40,000 credits to level up his greed ability. With a golden orb in hand, our protagonist says this will be the key to defeating the giant. A screen pops up and reveals that the item is the lightning spear, a legendary single-use weapon in the tower. Our guy then reflects that the item is rare and agrees with the stream that it doesn't look like a spear. With that, he opens his inventory to better analyze the new item he just received as a gift. Our hero explains that high-rank items change shape, and the people on the stream think he's a pro. With his goal in mind, our protagonist walks out of the cave for the final challenge. Meanwhile, in the village, one of the knights screams in desperation at the terror in front of him. The captain and his partner face a giant, dark monster that has appeared to attack. The creature then reveals itself to be a white-haired giant with a very sinister look. With a dark aura, the monster faces the knights, ready for the massacre in the small village. The system then names him Giant King Gred, the seed that swallowed lightning itself. Seeing the scene, the captain furiously yells as a knight runs towards the giant to surrender. The knight then cries desperately and says his companions know nothing about the monster. Seeing the monster's foot, he calls it a god and says he's not like the other foolish humans in the village. With that, the warrior kneels on the ground and begs for the giant's mercy, who looks down on him. But the monster questions him and asks if he really thinks he's a god like the others. With a furious look, the creature tells him not to compare him to the filthy gods he hates so much. With that, the older knight grabs him and yells for him to get up and fight with honor like a warrior. Dale then turns to Paluus and tells him to flee with the villagers as quickly as he can. With a determined look, the old warrior prepares to sacrifice himself for everyone's safety. Seeing the scene, the captain panics and screams his companion's name, desperate about the situation. With that, a powerful attack descends from the heavens, and the massacre of the knights occurs in the small village. Thrown backward, the blonde guy realizes there is no path to victory for his people. But with a serious look, he knows that now his only option is to find an escape route. To his bad luck, the escape route is blocked by more giants, and the villagers are in danger. With a shocked look, the captain realizes there's no more hope for any of them to survive. With a face full of despair, the blonde knight grinds his teeth with great force. Then, he yells at the monster and says he knows who was responsible for his son's end. Seeing this, the giant king looks at the small knight with curiosity in his eyes. The creature then asks who the scoundrel was who dared to touch his son. With his sword in hand, the captain prepares to point in our hero's direction. With that, he points his weapon towards the mountain and says the killer went there. The knight says the guy went to seek power to finish off all the giants at once. In his thoughts, the blonde guy begs for the monster to be tricked and go to the mountain. The giant king then turns and seems to believe the knight's lie, but the creature says it's a lie and that it can feel the falsehood in his words. The monster asks if the killer isn't there or if he just pointed to a random place. Before he could answer, a golden light explodes on the mountain, drawing everyone's attention. Seeing the scene, the blonde knight is shocked by the explosion of power he sees in the distance. With that, our protagonist's silhouette appears in the middle of the golden light like a god. Peleus then realizes who it is, and whispers the name of the benefactor who returned to save them. The system then announces the start of the 7th phase, and our hero observes the horde of giants. Our guy thinks that if something stronger appears, this won't be a second floor test anymore, but he says it's okay, and there's no reason to worry about the current situation. Our protagonist says he doesn't need to think too much, as he just needs to hit the monster once. He knows that with his current power he can't win, but he needs to stop the monster before it's too late. With that, our hero raises the orb, and the system announces that the lightning spear has been initiated. A great golden energy then descends from the heavens, and the system announces that the weapon is initializing. The golden energy begins to spin with great intensity, creating a large vortex of power. With that, golden lightning forms in the sky, preparing for the devastating attack to come. Our protagonist then extends his hand to the power, and the initialization rate climbs to 10%. The energy envelopes him and his fatigue increases to 84 because of the weapon's immense power. Slowly, the golden energy begins to take shape and form a spear in his hand. He then runs forward, and the weapon's initialization rate climbs to 33%. His ability tries to resist the spear's power, but the resistance fails as the effect is weak. With that, he realizes his skill level is still too low to use a legendary item. His fatigue climbs to 88, but he knows he has to endure it with this body. The people on the stream joke about his suffering, but our hero remains focused on his goal. Our protagonist asks if the giant noticed, and the stream jokes that even a grandma would see it. He admits it would be impossible not to notice with the light show, and the initialization climbs higher. The giant king then notices the light on the mountain and finally understands what's happening. With a heavy step, he says he's finally found his son's true killer. With a furious look, the creature faces our hero and accuses him of being the great culprit. The creature then leaps, and the captain screams in desperation, as his opponent was supposed to be him. With a serious look, the blonde knight watches the giant monster leave. Seeing this, Peleus worries, as the monster might harm the villagers. Standing in front of the mountain, the giant king calls his son's name with sadness. With a sad look, he says the pain his son felt must have been horrible. He then says he will avenge that pain and prepares to attack with everything he has. With a powerful stomp, he unleashes a great wave of energy for the final attack. With a furious look, the creature charges full speed towards the mountain for revenge. With eyes red with hatred, the giant king yells that he will return all the pain and readies his fist for a devastating attack against our hero. With a furious look, the giant king advances to deliver a devastating punch to our hero. The creature yells with hatred and says it will return all the pain it felt with the loss of its son. Our guy readies his spear, and the initialization reaches 88% power. The mountain is then hit by the giant's fist, which advances mercilessly for the attack. Our hero thinks the chance is 50-50, and that it's all or nothing at this moment. Suddenly, in his mind, a voice tells him not to look away from what's about to happen. In a memory, a man was teaching him and telling him never to look away from his target. The master was saying that the spear throw starts from that point, and was teaching him to stance. He then instructs him to eliminate unnecessary thoughts, like throwing in a straight line or an arc. The master was telling him to ignore the trajectory, and also to disregard the spear's weight and shape. With a smile, he says our guy is different from other spearmen, and asks why. The memory then reveals that it's because he is the real Subaru Narukami, and not an imposter. Back in the present, the spear's initialization climbs to 95% power. With that, our hero wonders what he should do to successfully finish the attack. The master's image appears and says that either way, he won't be throwing a normal spear. The memory of his master says it's easy, as he shouldn't throw, but explode. Our hero holds the golden spear as the giant smashes the mountain with its fist. The people on the stream yell for him to hurry up, because if he hesitates, he'll meet his end. Our guy says there's just a little more to go as he withstands the impact of the creature's attack. With his feet planted firmly on the ground, he prepares not to be dragged by the force of the monster's blow. The giant king then roars with all its fury as it continues to bring its fist down on the mountain. The giant creature is about to crush our hero, who is surrounded by a golden aura. With that, a massive explosion of golden energy occurs at the location with great intensity. The preparation is finally complete, and the spear's initialization reaches 100%. With his face all battered, our protagonist holds the spear with a very determined look. He then tells himself that this is his only chance to end it all at once. With the spear in hand, our guy yells that he will finish the fight with a single blow. With a focused look, our hero prepares for the final throw with all his strength. With a spinning motion, he then launches the powerful lightning spear towards the monster. After the throw, our protagonist lands on the ground, all battered but with a victorious look. The lightning spear hits the giant king's head dead on, who is shocked by the attack. With that, the creature is enveloped in an intense golden energy and feels the pain of the blow. Then, a massive explosion of light and energy occurs, annihilating the monster once and for all. The giant's eye stares at the explosion, and it can only let out one last breath of pain. With its body disintegrating, the creature tries to say something, but it's too late for it. Our hero then lands safely on the ground after the intense battle he just had, all battered. He stares at the scene, and the people on the stream celebrate, as he really did hit the monster. The system announces that he has defeated the monster and has passed the 7th phase of the lightning trial. With the victory, he levels up and gains several stats, as well as the item Heart of Lightning. Our protagonist then looks at the item and wonders what this Heart of Lightning he won is. Suddenly, the crystal glows with an intense light in his hands, and he feels great pain. With a tear on his face, he wonders what that is, as his body has been transported to another place. Our guy then finds himself in a strange place and wonders where the heck he's ended up now. With that, a giant and mysterious shadow appears behind him, leaving him completely shocked. Our protagonist tries to speak but can't, and wonders what's happening. He then realizes his body won't move, and is completely paralyzed on the spot. With that, the system repeatedly warns that a mysterious presence is staring at him intently. The giant shadow continues to look at him, and our hero feels small and powerless before it. With a sweaty face, he wonders if the creature is trying to tell him something. Then, he squeezes the Heart of Lightning in his hand, and a great golden light begins to shine. With that, a great flash of light blinds him, and pulls him out of that strange and dark place. Our protagonist then finds himself back on top of the mountain where the battle took place. A screen pops up with a new scene, and the chat comments that he passed out on the stream again. Sitting on the ground, he wonders if that was all just a simple game cutscene. He then gets up and apologizes to the stream, saying he passed out for a moment. With the device in hand, he says he needs to accept the credits he earned in the missions. Our hero then completes several missions, and his credits climb to over 40,000. He announces that he's tired and says goodbye to the stream, ending the broadcast there. Sometime later, in a coffee shop, his manager congratulates him on his excellent work in the exam, but he asks if the stream was good, and the woman says it was simply perfect. With a smile, the manager says he didn't even notice that the stream hit a peak of 3,000 people. Our guy apologizes, as he was focused on the exam, and the woman is shocked by his detachment. She says that for a rookie, that's incredible, and that the moment he ended the stream was perfect. Our protagonist understands that the suspense left everyone curious, and she asks if it was on purpose. He then explains his plan to check the rewards on the next stream to make it seem more natural. With a smile, the woman realizes he understands the business, and that the boss's worries were silly. With that, she says she has a gift for our hero, who is very curious about the offer. The woman then leans in, and says it's a special gift that he won't be able to refuse. With a mischievous smile, she repeats that the gift is very special, leaving an air of mystery. With a smile, Hatsuka asks him to look up a streamer named Hawkeye, and our MC Subunukami grabs his device and starts the search she asked for. He finds a stream of a blonde guy, who says that today's topic is going to be an interesting one. The streamer Hawkeye claims that Subunukami might be the real Narukami and not some 2.0 version. He explains that while Subunukami was in the grueling trial, he was also facing a challenge of his own. Hatsuka looks a bit sheepish about the situation and averts her gaze. On the stream, the streamer says he's just going to sum it all up because there's no need to beat around the bush, and then he declares that Subunukami is literally Narukami Q, leaving our hero completely stunned. With a confident look, the blonde streamer says he has nothing more to add. Subunukami wonders if Hatsuka thinks the same thing as that streamer, and she turns to him, asking if she can ask a slightly personal question. Hatsuka awkwardly admits it's strange for a manager to be asking this. With her face flushed, she hesitates for a moment, and then she directly asks what his real reason for live streaming is. She follows up, wanting to know if it's not just about the money. Our MC Subunukami crosses his arms and gives the question some thought. Meanwhile, Hatsuka stares at him with a nervous smile, waiting for his answer. However, Subunukami replies bluntly that it's 100% for the money, and that's the only reason. With such a direct answer, Hatsuka turns red and is left totally embarrassed. not knowing what to say. She then says that money is important and apologizes for the question, but he reassures her that it's okay. The girl quickly changes the subject and, with an excited smile, starts talking about gifts. She explains that the streamer Hawkeye has been with their agency for 6 years and has a massive fan base. Enthusiastically, Hatsuka throws a bunch of paperwork on the table and says they're going to split all the money from that stream. Subunukami then asks who they're splitting it with, and she replies that it's with him. Since the content is all about him, our MC is shocked and asks if she's serious, while she thinks to herself that everything has gotten better since he joined the agency. Completely flustered by the question, Hatsuka confirms that it's a surprise bonus. Still a bit flustered, she tries to compose herself and proposes that he do a collaboration with the streamer Hawkeye. Later, back in his room, our MC Subunukami seems to be mulling over their conversation. With a hand on his face, he laments, thinking that maybe he didn't need to wear the mask after all, and he also regrets insisting so much that he was doing it all just for the money. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, Subunukami thinks that the closer he gets to someone, the harder it is to know what he should hide, so he doesn't give himself away. Pushing those thoughts aside, he spends 40,000 credits to upgrade his skill. The Wedge of Greed levels up to level 4, and it'll cost 80,000 to level it up again. He then realizes he only has 120 credits left, and concludes that money really is the most important thing. At least the collaboration with Hawkeye the day after tomorrow will pay well. Suddenly, a crystal flower appears in his hand as he reflects on his future, and he wonders if his name will be revealed before he's ready for it. Meanwhile, in her room, Hatsuka is lying in bed, thinking about everything that happened. With her face flushed, she hugs her pillow tightly, looking pretty worked up. The girl recalls the question she asked about him doing everything for money, and cringes with embarrassment. With a punch to the pillow, she shouts out a confirmation of her feelings for him. She knows that behind that mask, there's a huge secret. Because of that, she screams that she won't ask any more questions, because she's just too curious to find out. Finally, she thinks that ever since she met Subunukami, everything in her life has been getting better. With another punch to the pillow, Hatsuka emotionally yells that she feels the same way about him. From the impact, several feathers start flying around the room as she lets out all her feelings, and she thinks about Narukami Subaru, the guy with a secret no one knows, and just how cool he is. The scene shifts to the 7th floor, a dark, gothic place called Nox Bella. We see a lit window in one of the buildings, indicating someone is awake. Inside, a muscular man is training hard while watching a live stream. The streamer Hawkeye says on screen that there's no need to drag it out, and that just one sentence is enough. The muscular man grips the iron bar with immense force, showing his anger. He clearly doesn't like that blonde streamer one bit. He then asks who this guy is, and if he should address him casually or formally. Another man appears and explains that he's a streamer with an average of 8,000 viewers. The muscular guy is Kurokal Amon from the Blue Zone, and he says he's tried being a streamer before. His colleague tells him to forget about Hawkeye and focus on Subunukami, but Amon just calls him an imposter. On the screen, Amon sees our MC's lightning power and is shocked by the scene. Finally, he remembers the words of Sako Shuhai, the Knight of the Blue Eyes. His colleague is startled, as Amon remembers every little thing he used to say. Amon says they admired the blue eyes because they were at the top of everything. Furthermore, he thinks there's something very suspicious about the way they were all wiped out. We cut back to the streamer Hawkeye, who claims that our hero is an Arukami Q. Amon is furious with the streamer, thinking they just throw away their pride for views, so his partner simply turns off the television with the remote control. Amon asks why he showed him that garbage, and the guy says he didn't want to. He reveals that the guild master, Kyoju, ordered him to show that stream. The colleague explains that thunder was the symbol of the blue eyes, which became the Blue Zone, and they heard that this streamer would do anything for money. Right after, a man pulls a large cloth off a cart, revealing its contents. Seeing it, Amon's eye widens in complete and utter shock. His colleague shows him several gold bars and says the budget is ready to bring him in. Amon is speechless, unable to believe what he's seeing. Breaking into a cold sweat, he wonders if that streamer is really that crazy for cash. The system announces the start of the 2nd floor exam in a destroyed village. A blonde knight shouts for them to gather the injured and treat the critical cases first. With a determined look, he continues to organize the aid for those in need. Suddenly, he notices something, and his face lights up with a huge smile of relief, and he runs towards our MC, calling him benefactor, and saying that he's awake. The young man asks how he's feeling and says that everyone was very worried. Subunukami replies that he's still dizzy, and the knight says that's normal, since it all happened yesterday. Our MC asks if they can talk at the inn, as he has a few questions. The knight eagerly agrees and says he can ask whatever he wants. Subunukami watches the young man with a smile, and thinks to himself that Polius is a good kid. Later, in his room, he sits on the bed to analyze the situation, and he decides to check the reward he received for completing the exam. He gets an item called the Heart of Thunder, which increases attack and resistance. Our MC is in disbelief and wonders if this is even real. He then smiles as he realizes these are the perfect stats for a Thunder user. With a triumphant smile, our MC thinks that this item is insanely good. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and Subunu Kami says to come in with whatever they brought. It was Peleus, arriving with a large fruit basket as a gift. Subunu Kami is pretty confused by the situation, and the viewers ask what's going on. The knight then asks if he slept well, and the viewers start cracking jokes about the visit. Soon after, the two of them sit down at a table to talk more calmly. Our MC then says that the legend was true, making the young man tense up. Peleus agrees, since he saw the light too, and celebrates that he saved the entire village. Subunu Kami then pulls an item from his pocket and says that this fell from the giant's body. He shows him the Heart of Thunder, and Peleus is shocked, unable to believe his eyes. Our hero then asks if the knight knows what this mysterious item is. However, with a very serious look, Peleus immediately denies it, saying he has no idea. Subunu Kami gets suspicious, and the viewers comment that he totally knows everything. The knight apologizes and says he only knows ancient legends and isn't even sure if they're real. Peleus reveals that he only knows 2 legends, which surprises our MC. He then begins to tell the first legend, which says that thunder was used to strike down the giant, and he concludes that our MC Subunu Kami was the one who did it as he prepares to tell the second one. The other story tells of how gods and giants fought each other for control of the thunder. Our hero is surprised by this revelation, and the knight confirms the ancient battle. He explains that it's a legend within a legend, and that the giants lost the war. Subunu Kami then deduces that the gem was created by someone on purpose. Peleus says that not even the legends tell who created it, but the reason is pretty obvious. The goal was to allow ordinary humans to wield the power of thunder, and the reason they needed this power is because of the gods and giants, because these creatures are far too strong for normal humans to face. The silhouettes show that humans were given this power to fight and win. That's why the Heart of Thunder was made, to give them a fighting chance. The system announces that he has seen all the tales and has successfully completed the trial of thunder. Suddenly, our MC begins to fade away right in front of the knight, and Peleus screams for his benefactor, not understanding what just happened. Peleus is left behind, completely confused by what went down. The scene then takes us to the 3rd floor, a city called Ortino. In a pillar of golden light, our MC, Subunu Kami, appears in the middle of the square. He finally arrives at his destination, and the viewers celebrate his arrival. Nearby, some guys complain about seeing another Narukami cosplayer and wonder when the trend will die down. A donation of 1,000 credits pops up, congratulating him on his achievement. With a serious look, our MC knows that something important is about to happen. Suddenly, a young woman approaches a young man and asks to speak with him for a moment. It was Raina-san, who back then seemed like a super unapproachable person. With an awkward smile, she says that she's kind of lost track of her group. The young woman then asks if he's seen a specific guy, but he seems confused. The young man thinks for a second and describes the man as being a head taller than her. He then confirms that he saw him, making Rina super excited by the news. The young man points in the direction the guy went, and she thanks him profusely for the help. Overjoyed, she runs in the indicated direction to find her friend. As suddenly, the young woman stops running, and the young man is confused about what happened. Completely lost, she starts pointing in every direction, not knowing where to go. The young man then offers to go with her, since he's heading to the same place. Raina gets super excited by the offer and asks if he's really sure. He confirms, but immediately regrets it, thinking he should have just pointed the way and left. She introduces herself as Kyoka Rina, and he says his name is Narukami Q. The memory ends, and our MC wonders if everyone from back then is still alive. Back in the present, a viewer gifts him and asks how he's feeling. With a melancholic look, he remembers everything that's happened on his journey, and he replies that it feels like he's lost something very important. Our MC then grabs his device to end the live stream. He announces that the next stream will be with Hawkeye, and then ends the broadcast. The scene changes to a fancy coffee shop, where several people are talking. Subunu Kami arrives and sits at the table, apologizing for being late. An older man comes over and says that Hatsuka is on her way to the meeting. The man introduces himself as John Tail from Souten Entertainment, and our hero thinks to himself that this must be the annoying boss. Our MC, Subunu Kami, greets him and says he's heard a lot about him from his manager. John says he wanted to meet him because he's the second player that Hatsuka has ever praised so highly. Our hero asks who the first one was, and the man says he doesn't even need to say the name. The first one she praised was Subaru Narukami of the Blue Eyes himself, which makes our MC tense up. The man says that he surprised him and that he found it strange she'd take an interest interest in someone with the same name. With an awkward smile, our hero thinks about throwing a curveball question, and so he asks if the man has any interest in the guild known as the Blue Eyes. Subunukami's eye glows intensely as he waits for the answer. With a confident smile, the boss notices his reaction and says he's not entirely uninterested. John reveals that this is one of the reasons he wanted to meet him in person. 5 days later, our MC looks at his device and discovers the grand prize for a tournament. With a surprised look, he wonders if this is for real and is left in shock. A golden energy begins to emanate from his fist as he clenches it tightly. The device shows that Subaru Narukami has ended the livestream, and he becomes thoughtful. In an elevator, a young woman looks at her device and says the stream is already over. She then steps out and wonders if things have wrapped up on the other side as well. Her footsteps echo through the forest as she walks across a snowy landscape. She continues her journey alone amidst a cold and desolate scenery. Arriving at her destination, she finds a man with silver hair and asks if it's over. He then turns around and confirms that it all ended some time ago. She asks what he was doing, and the young man says he was just debating. He was thinking about whether he should have finished off those ice warriors, or if he should have simply let them all go in peace. The young woman says he should have finished them, since they know who sent them, but the young man says he's not sure, and that's why he was hesitating to act. And he argues that if it were Kyoju, he wouldn't have sent such weak warriors. She retorts that letting them go is a problem, because their location could be exposed. Suddenly, several ice blades erupt from the ground, ready to attack. The young woman then launches herself into a shower of blades to handle the situation. With a simple gesture, she controls an infinite number of ice daggers in the air. The blades then begin to swirl around her with an intense blue energy. Seeing this, the silver-haired man desperately yells for her to stop. However, it was too late, and a storm of ice charges forward with full force. The daggers strike the ice warriors head-on, shattering them into countless pieces. One of the warriors has its upper body completely shattered by the force of the impact, and so, one by one, all the enemies are completely destroyed. With the battlefield cleared, he yells furiously, asking what she was thinking. She then explains that if she had let them go, they would have found out that both of them are still alive. The young woman says he needs to be more ruthless, and he apologizes for his hesitation. The silver-haired young man then takes out his device, looking very thoughtful. She then shows him something on her device and asks him to look at something important. Seeing the screen, the young man is shocked, and she screams in rage at the situation, with her eyes red with hatred. She calls the people she's seeing scumbags. Finally, he asks if it pisses her off, and she replies that it obviously does. On the device's screen is an image of a pair of shoes from a former comrade. The young man says that it's bait, a trap to lure them out. With a furious look, the young woman realizes that they might know she's still alive, and she says they can't just stand by. They need to get that item back. The young man agrees and says he's useless in stealth missions, but she's great at them. She says he talks too much and that she had already decided to do it anyway. Suddenly, he grabs her by the arm and asks her to wait a moment, and he explains that he's not saying they should just charge in blindly without a plan. The plan is to steal the prize as soon as the tournament winner is decided. John Tails shows the shoes and says it's a memento from a member of the Blue Eyes. He then asks if our MC is interested in the item, and he confirms with a look full of hatred. He says he has a fierce interest in getting that prize. John is pleased, as he didn't expect him to take the bait so hard, and he proposes a project where our hero would hunt for relics of the Blue Eyes. Our MC is furious at their audacity, and his eyes burn with rage. He thinks that they're using Toshiya's memento as a circus attraction. Seeing his reaction, John asks if something is wrong, or if something is bothering him. Our MC Subunukami calms himself and, with a determined look, says he'll do it. With a satisfied smile, the boss says that's great and that he's very happy. Subunukami then gets up and says his goodbyes, stating that he's leaving. John says he'll always be cheering for him from behind the screen as Subunukami walks away. However, with a furious look, our MC swears that he won't let anyone else get that prize. Later, in his room, Subunukami lies down on his bed to relax and think about the tournament. He then wonders what kind of event the competition will be. Our hero thinks that he'd be very grateful if the tournament were a one-on-one match, but he soon realizes that now is not the time to be picky. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, and our hero realizes it's Hatsuka calling. Startled, our MC quickly sits up in bed to answer the call. Sitting on the bed, he stares at the door in his mask, which is beside him. His focused gaze shows that he is fully alert to what might happen next. Upon opening the door, Subunukami is met with Hatsuka, all dressed up for the occasion. With her face completely flushed, the young woman gets embarrassed seeing our MC so suddenly. Wearing his mask, he invites her in, and she wonders why he wears it in his room. Hatsuka gets super nervous and awkward at the invitation to come into his room. Seeing her reaction, he says they can talk in the hallway, but the young woman immediately refuses. She quickly agrees to come into the room so they can talk better. Inside the room, the two sit in an awkward silence, a little distant from each other. Hatsuka's expression shows just how nervous and tense explains she is about the situation. She then notices the decor and realizes his room is quite simple and tidy. The young woman remains seated in the chair while our hero stares at her from the bed in silence. Subunu Kami then thinks that, as expected, the depth of her magical power is immense, and that no matter how he looks at it, Hatsuka isn't the type to be just a manager. She gets flustered by the silence and asks if there's something wrong with her face. The young woman then explains that she came to get the reference materials for the competition. With an awkward smile, Hatsuka apologizes and takes out the papers she brought. With the papers in hand, she explains that the competition will be a scramble match, and she continues, saying that it's a simple format where players fight for the prize. Our MC Subunu Kami understands that it will be a free-for-all, and the young woman confirms. Hatsuka reveals that the stage will be a virtual test field with no player limit. The young woman then says she'll send the data from past matches to his device. Looking at the screen, he realizes that all the data is about himself and his past. Subunu Kami then thanks her for all her hard work, and she says it's just her job. Suddenly, Hatsuka gets serious and asks if he's heard anything from the director. Our MC immediately thinks that she's referring to the Blue Zone. We then see Kyoju, the leader of the guild that wants to recruit him at all costs. Subunu Kami clenches his fist and wonders about the Blue Zone's interest in him. Hatsuka then reveals that she received a message from them saying they wanted to meet him. She thinks they're gonna negotiate, but Subunu Kami simply tells her to ignore them. With such a direct response, Hatsuka is left completely shocked and speechless. Finally, he states that he has absolutely no intention of joining the Blue Zone or any other guild. Hearing Subunu Kami's response, Hatsuka gets super excited and celebrates with a punch in the air. She says she was debating whether to tell him, but now she's glad she did. With a cute smile, the young woman says goodbye and tells him to enjoy his time until the collaboration. Watching her leave, our MC thinks that she's celebrating as if the good fortune were all hers. Taking off his mask, he's impressed by how passionate she is about her work. Outside, Hatsuka continues to celebrate, and he confirms that she's no ordinary person. The scene then takes us to a giant, completely empty battle arena. In the center of the arena, we see John Tail talking to the blonde streamer known as Hawkeye. John explains that today's plan is a talent test between the old and the new. Hawkeye likes the bold announcement but warns that it'll be a huge blow to him if he loses. With a confident look, the streamer says he accepts, as he needs to win the audience's trust. Arrogantly, he then asks if he's ever lost a single fight. The director finds him quite cocky, and Hawkeye just smirks at the comment. Suddenly, Hatsuka arrives, calling for the director and interrupting their conversation. Subunu Kami and she approach, and the man then compliments the pair on their good work. With a sly look, Hawkeye thinks that this is his chance to become a star. Meanwhile, Subunu Kami is impressed with the place, and the streamer approaches him. With an excited smile, the blonde guy formally introduces himself as the streamer Hawkeye. Our MC introduces himself, and the guy acts like a super excited, massive fan. John Tail interrupts and tells them to save the chat for the stream, which is about to start. Shortly after, Hawkeye begins the broadcast and greets his viewers. The viewer count jumps to 12,000, leaving the streamer surprised by the hype. He then announces that the person everyone has been waiting for has finally arrived. Our MC, Subunu Kami, takes a step forward to be introduced to the audience. Hawkeye introduces him, and the chat goes wild at the presence of our hero. The streamer asks if he has any secrets, since not even his manager has seen his face. Subunu Kami denies having any secrets and claims that he's actually quite handsome. The guy says he won't lose to him, but not in a fight. In the looks department, Hawkeye thinks he's a cool guy and laments not having any friends or a girlfriend. Behind the scenes, Hatsuka looks super happy, and John watches her with a serious expression. Hawkeye then stops messing around and says they're moving on to the main event. Immediately after, a large screen lights up and announces the start of the test. Suddenly, bright lights flash intensely throughout the entire arena. Then, a legion of robots emerges for the challenge that's about to begin. He then explains the reason why he chose this particular test. The streamer reveals that there are two reasons for his choice. The first is that the test is perfect for measuring a player's control. With a confident smile, he prepares to reveal the second reason, because now he can prove what he said, and a scoreboard shows the test's ranking. A viewer doubts him, but Subunu Kami says he wouldn't have accepted if he wasn't confident. Before him, several robots prepare to attack. Their eyes glow red, showing that they mean business. The scoreboard is shown again, highlighting the maximum score of 43. The chat is divided, as some believe he can pull off the feat. Finally, our hero Subunu Kami takes his position in the center of the arena for the fight. Suddenly, a viewer issues a 10,000 credit mission for our hero. Seeing this, several other fans send more credits, and he accepts everyone's challenge. The chat comments that only the rookie is going to suffer, and Hawkeye agrees with what was said. That's why he announces he's going to give all the mission money to Subunu Kami. Shortly after, the streamer pulls out a stopwatch and prepares to start the event. With an excited shout, he hits the button and says it's showtime, and so, a 3-minute counter begins, marking the time for the challenge. Our MC is then surrounded surrounded by a horde of robots ready to attack. Without wasting a moment, he activates his lightning ability and prepares for combat. With incredible speed, he dodges an attack from one of the robots. Next, he grabs a robot's head with his electricity charged hand, and he hurls it with full force, destroying it and scoring his first point. Seeing the scene, Hawkeye gets super hyped about the birth of the thunder. Our MC Subunukami then summons his mighty sword for the fight, and he attacks several robots with the clock at 2 minutes and 39 seconds. The robots then advance, their red eyes glowing with rage. Our MC Subunukami is surrounded from all sides in the middle of the arena. With 2 minutes and 3 seconds on the clock, he blocks a blow with his electric power. The chat comments that aerial combat is our hero's original specialty. He then flies towards one of the robots to prepare for his next attack. Holding his sword firmly, he concentrates all his power. His blade then glows with an intense, dark golden energy. Shortly after, he unleashes a devastating spinning attack on all the enemies. The score climbs to 20, sits with 1 minute and 22 seconds remaining. One of the robots is completely shattered by the force of the attack. The chat believes he'll easily surpass the second place score. Hawkeye watches everything and is blown away by our hero's skill. A tear rolls down his eye, shocked by the scene he's witnessing. With 13 seconds left, the score is already at 40. One monster is defeated. He then prepares to deliver the final blow to the remaining enemies. With 9 seconds left, the score hits 42 as he destroys another robot. With only 5 seconds remaining, our hero continues his frantic assault. Time is running out, and with a focused look, he prepares for the last enemy. Before him, the final robot positions itself for the decisive battle. With 2 seconds left, our MC unleashes a kick with all his might, and in the final second, he manages to destroy the last enemy with his sword. The scoreboard still shows 42 as time runs out. However, the exact moment it hits 0, the score updates to 43. The test ends, and with the record updated, he ties for first place. The chat explodes with excitement, and the scoreboard confirms the tie with the original Subaru Narukami. Hawkeye is stunned and yells that he managed to tie with the original. With an excited smile, he announces to the nearly 40,000 viewers that it was a tie. Several fans send donations, and our MC thanks everyone for their support. The chat asks if this is his stream now, but Hawkeye immediately denies it. Suddenly, a 10,000 credit donation from someone named Reinhardt appears on the screen. Hawkeye is startled by the name Reinhardt, and the chat tries to guess if it's the real one. The streamer thanks him for the donation, shocked that a top-tier ranker is watching his stream. We see an imposing man on a throne of swords, the famous Reinhardt, the one-hit swordsman. Reinhardt sends another 1,000 credits and says he always watches the streamer's broadcasts and was impressed. Our MC Subunukami becomes wary and wonders why he's showing up now. Next, Reinhardt invites him for a collaboration, leaving our hero quiet for a moment. Seeing the situation, the streamer doesn't know what to do as they both wait for an answer. Behind the scenes, John Tail and Hatsuka give him an okay sign to accept the proposal. However, our MC simply refuses the invitation, leaving the streamer completely shocked. The director and manager panic at his live-on-air refusal. Subunukami apologizes and asks the streamer to wrap things up, as he's used too much power. Hawkeye is confused, and our hero begins to walk away from the arena without another word. The director and Hatsuka run up to him and ask why he would turn down such an opportunity. Our MC questions if it's really a reason for such a fuss, surprising the man. Finally, he says that if it takes a ranker to collaborate with, then he'll just become one himself. With a determined look, our MC Subunukami faces the two without saying anything. Hawkeye approaches and says it was the best stream ever, and that he'll pay him as soon as he gets the money. He then takes advantage of the stream being over to ask our hero a question. The streamer says his fighting style was different and asks if he was injured. Subunukami thinks that, as expected, the Hawkeye noticed the difference too. He reflects that it didn't matter if he won or lost, as both would have been a disadvantage. Hawkeye then asks what he means by that being a disadvantage. Our hero explains that if he had won, the attention would be temporary and the interest would fade. But if he had lost, the conclusion would be that he couldn't compete with the original. That's why he needed a result that would help the image of both streamers. With a serious look, he reveals that the tie was the best possible outcome for both of them. Director then asks if he means he could have done even better. Our MC Subunukami just replies with a mysterious, "Who knows?" John Tail ends the discussion and says the result can't be changed now. Finally, Subunukami says that it all depends on how the viewer perceives the situation. With that said, he turns his back and walks down the stairs, leaving the trio behind in the arena.